Mams, pack up na! Hinay-hinay na tagdakop diri. Dili na maghuwat ang revolusyon. Grabe na ang krisis diri sa Cebu.
TMD na jud boss. Gimo ta na lugma.
Sige! Mabuhay ang Revolution! Mabuhay ang Pilipinas! Oh wait! What time gamit?
Uy!
What time magsugod ang buwan ang lira?
Asa nakahato si Flores? Padung na ba ka to siyang posisyon? Wala man dyan ni text.
Alam siya to siya ay cold.
Si Gugot dira.
Siyempre, uy. Basta Revolution, tabang-tabang na ita.
A few moments later.
Uy! Selfie tayo na.
Uy, di tag-chicharon din na. Pilamig sa chicharon na si Gaspar.
Sige.
Dili lang sa ako. Pabiling lang. Sige.
juga kakita sa akong kagwapa. Akong kaanyag wajuripek ni mo. Bisan ka no sa tanang katsila at mga babae gigukod ka. Usa ka alaw sa mga balay kang nagabhian. Mingan ko mauna ni karon naging naswertian. Nagdali kong idayag pangtanang kitipigan. Layon sa imong kaisog, kagwapo, kakuskan. Nabay swerteng babae diha sa imong dughan. Sa matang kilap ikaw mitugan, o sa manimong nagwapa o buotan. Mga pahiyong sa maniya ng bulan, di Ako siyang halaran, pakig-awayan, pakamatian. Siya mao ang Pilipinas, atong yutang nga tauhan. Bispera sa Tres de Abril, tiro batok sa katsila. Dagdag ka sa sundang, unya pwerte mong singuta. Mga katipunerang gwapa, wala dyan ibong tagda. Abril 5, gitestas mong mga kanyon sa Fort San Pedro. Di paganita uyab, kung mabiyudan ako, pan ang anting-anting niluwas ni mos peligro. Leon sa imong kaisog, kagwapo o kakusgan. Naabay swerteng babae diha sa imong dughan. Sa matang kilap, ikaw mitugan, usama ni mong nagwapa o buutan. Mga pahirong sama niya ng bulan, di ka ba'y lubisan sa bulawan. Ako siyang halaran, pakigawayan, pakamatian. Siya mao ang Pilipinas, atong yutang na tauhan. Hay leon ano nga pildughan mo koblan, nagpungasing bala imo lang gipapagi. Apiasam ni mo papakong gugma, pwede man sa magkuyog kang duha. Pukuson na to sa gugma, kining nasura, pildihon tanang dautan. Ilingawas ang katawhan, kabuton na to ang kadaugan.
Kinsagin na sila yung kilat.
Waka kailan nila yung kilat? Oh, sige. Tuna na to together.
Paminawa, kaning litanya, kabahining bisda kong paghigugma. Para buyag, kasing-kasing kiat, para buyag, atlik paniliyon kilat. Pagpanggaog ay paspuso sa larsyan, muhumok, ibaw, sabaw sa linarang. Humukog ilong, tanalaag tas kulon, at tuon, tadapit nga makasaysayon. Lapit sa dila, ugrot siya sa pulong, dugan mo siguradong makumong-kumong. Ugot pasuot, ugot pasuot, ugot pasuot.
Bahalag saging, basta labing, bahalag buwan, basta tupad. Bahalag tuyo, basta wilyo, bahalag inamos, basta anggako. Bahalag ilaw, basta ikaw, bahalag wari, basta permi. Bahalag langay, basta tanday, bahalag dukot, basta lang hugot. Hugot pasuot, hugot pasuot, kasing-kasing kapuno sa kahimuon. Huot pas hugot, huot pas hugot, ikaw akong forever, wala'y magbuot. Hugot pas huot, hugot pas huot, bisag ipatpad man sa tumang kalimot. Huot pas hugot, hugot pas hugot, sa dalan kulot. sakit. Bahalag mag-uos, basta lang timot. Bahalag mo loong, basta mo haon. Bahalag di makaya, basta kita.
Hindi ka biyaan, tuura jud na ako. Mura General Maxilom ni ikon mo plano. Para ni mo makipatay ko pareho. Sa Cebuanong Katipunero si Alejo. Maglisod ko kaon kung di tadungan. Ang imong istorya murag musika sa dungan. Bisa kinsa nga babae, di ka ilisan kaya na akong gugma. Solid pa sa Katipunan.
Hugot pa suot, hugot pa suot. Kasing-kasing kapuno sa kahimuon. Hugot pa sugot, hugot pa sugot. Ikaw akong forever, wala'y magbuot na. Hugot pa sugot, hugot pa sugot. Bisag ipagtanwa sa tumang kalimot. Hugot pa sugot, hugot pa sugot. Sa dalan kulon, kita mag-abot. Sa dalan kulon, kita mag-abot. Sa dalan kulon, bayang sabot.
They say looks can be deceiving. At first glance, I thought you were not much to look at. All icing, no cake, all steam, not much brew. But the night air sings of fulfilling ancient dreams. The moon whispers of tenderness for the smallest of them, for the unheard, the unseen. And as the sun breaks through our heroes' memories, your blinding smile hits my heart, like the warrior's blade, like Lapu-Lapu's spear. But the far seas beckon you. The memories on these walls try to soothe the pain of parting. I seek for your warmth, but only these sheets comfort me. My tears are salt water flowing to bridge the seas and islands that divide us. The stars listen to my sighs as I look for you in the skies. And now you're here. Our love blazes like the fire of our heroes' revolution. Our hearts entwined is such sweet victory, incomparable, like the journey of our people, like the richness of our culture.
Hugyaw, maoy, love and betrayal in the Tres de Abril, celebrating the 124th year of the Tres de Abril uprising and the 5th anniversary of Palm Grass Hotel Heritage Cebu. Before we begin our program, let us watch the reenactment of Ang Kagubot sa Tres de Abril, brought to you by Bagong Teatro Hungkera.
Ako si Leon Kilat. Gikan pa ko Negros Oriental. Ako ang leader sa atong pag-alsa ugma. Oo, ugma. Dili na nato palabyon pa ang mga adlaw, mga kauban. Kay usa ka gutlo nga paglangan, libo ka dupa ang kadaugan sa atbang. Mga kauban, dili ta mahadlok. Kini usa ka anting-anting ug ingon sila nga mao ni ang rason nga kublan ko. Pero dili, kublan ko kay mas gusto pa kong mamatay para sa akong nasod kaysa mabuhi nga ulipon sa mga langyaw. Isulod ninyo ang inyong kaisog sama nako. Ibutang ninyo sa inyong agtang, sa atubangan sa inyong kalo. Ang bestidora, usa ka nakapanapton nga naay mga nakasuwat na panuwatang Latin sa Espanyol. O kana, mauna ang 𝗃𝙃𝙀𝙧𝙀 Redentura. Uguman ang papel bago kita moadto sa gera, aron dili mo gutomon bisan sa unsa kadugay ang away. Mga kauban, dili lamang kining mga anting-anting ang moprotektar nato sa gera, kundi ang atong kaisog. Bisan kutsilyo ug sundang lay ato batok sa ilang mga pusilog kanyon, magmadaugon ta kay wala kitay kahadlok. Sa ika-3 Abril, mag-alsa kita. Mabuhi ang Pilipinas. Mabuhi ang revolusyon. Mabuhi ang Katipunan. Mabuhi ang revolusyon.
Gipanguluhan ni Leon Kilat ang panagsangka sa Tres de Abril batok sa mga katsila.
Tay mga igsuon, hapa kamong tanan.
Kahibalo si Leon nga 5 ra ka bala ang naa sa matag pusil sa mga katsila. Manghapa sila. Iphon nila ang 5 ka buto og inig kahurot sa bala, inig kargada balik og bala. Dito ang saktong oras para ang mga katipunero mamarog og muhasmag. Mabuhi ang Pilipinas. Mabuhi ang revolusyon.
We request everyone to please stand for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. Presented to you by the Hungkera Street Children's
Aspire
Choir.
to be worthy in following the path taken by our heroes in their fearless fight for a land whose sun and stars forever shine for justice, whose loving embrace is everyone's paradise. We strive to become a people who love our motherland in our every breath and with every drop of our blood, sweat, and tears.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, arap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, nguyang ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisikin, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bangka. May tilak ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang iskap ng watawat tuwing tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin na taraw niya kailan kamay di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng ating pagsinta, kulay langit sa timog. Aming ligaya na ba ay mang-aapit ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for our opening prayer. Pag-ampo alang sa nabag-ong sugbo. O mabubuhat, nag-ampo kami kanimo alang sa usa ka sugbong hingpit nga nagbag-o. Ang sugbo sa mga bayani, gidamgo, usa ka sugbo nga atong ikapasigarbo. Kami nagaampo alang sa bag-ong sugbo, sugboanong maalamon sa among mga kaagi, na hiusang nagpanday, pagkabot sa damgo, sa sugbong maisog, mauswagon, ug gawasnon. Among mga pangandoy para sa mga bata, may pagkaon sa lamisa ug balay makatulgan. May bisting, makahupay sa gabii nga matugnaw. Giatiman, gipangga sa tibuok katilingban. Kami nagaampo alang sa mga bagong sugbo, sugboanong dakog garbo sa among mga kaagi, na hiusang nagpanday, pagkabot sa damgo, sa sugbong maisog, mauswagon, ug gawasnon. To our on-site audience, you may now take your seat. Good afternoon, maayong hapon, magandang hapon sa lahat. My name is Josh and I will be your host for today, and welcome to Hugyaw, Maoy, Love and Betrayal in the Tres de Abril, celebrating the 124th year of the Tres de Abril uprising and the 5th grand opening anniversary of Palm Grass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. Now, before we proceed with our program, we would like to say hello and good day and good afternoon to our friends who are watching us online, and good afternoon to our on-site guests. Now, before we proceed, we would like to take this opportunity to recognize our partners. First off, we have the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. We also have the National Quincentennial Committee, Department of Education, Region 7, Cebu, Normal University, University of San Carlos, Department of Anthropology, Sociology, and History. We also have USC, Department of Political Science, the Carolinian Political Science Society. Also with us is the Culture, Arts, and Design Association of the Philippines Foundation, Incorporated. Also with us is Art Cebu, Bagong Teatro Junquera, Museo Sugbo, 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧 Heritage Center, and so on 2020. Let us give them all a big round of applause. We also recognize the participants for today's special event. Our friends in Canada, University of Toronto. Also with us is Parep Springdale School Incorporated, Southwestern University FINMA, School Division of Taguig and Pateros, USAID Reach Health Project, and Cebu Institute of Technology University. A round of applause for them. Also for today, we have a few highlights prepared to you guys. So one of our highlights includes a conversation with Dr. Michael Cullinane, the awarding of the winners of the Cebu-wide Impromptu Speech Contest, and the relaunching of the books. To name them, we have 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙧, The Untold Story of 1898 Cebu Revolution by 𝗵𝙃𝙧𝙧𝙧𝙃. Also, we have 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙧𝙧𝙃, 𝗺𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙧𝙃 We also have a short story of Cebu from 1500s to 1890s, and the Anti-Spanish Revolution in Cebu by Dionisio C. Later on, we'll be hearing messages coming from our friends from National Historical Commission of the Philippines and the Department of Education. Also, we have a very special video screening entitled General Maxilom, The Last Man Standing. And to our creative and cosplay fans out there, we have the Cebu Katipunan Cosplay Contest. Later on, of course, our event would not be special without some raffle giveaways. Raffle for free Heritage Trail Adventure on April 27, 2022. Also, we have some trivia questions later with prizes. So for those who are watching us online, make sure that you stay there, stay glued to your screens, because we'll be having prizes for you. Okay. So I think I have made mention of our highlights and the things to look forward to for our event. And now we turn you over to a very special message coming from the National Historical Commission to be presented by its chair, Dr. Rene Escalante.
Allow me to begin my message by thanking the administrators of the Palm Grass Hotel for inviting the National Historical Commission of the Philippines to deliver a message for the celebration of your 5th anniversary in the hotel industry. Palm Grass Hotel is locally dubbed as Cebu's Heritage Hotel, owing to its enthusiasm to showcase the rich history of the city through its programs, events, and exhibits. This festive occasion coincided with the commemoration of the 124th year anniversary of the victory of the Cebuano revolutionaries against the Spaniards, known today as the uprising of Tres de Abril. For the last 5 years, as chair of the NHCP, Cebu has been one of the major cities that I frequently visited as I fulfill my duty to lead the Commission in promoting Philippine history and to preserve the heritage sites of our country. Cebu City, being the cradle of Christianity in the Far East and home to many historical structures established during the Spanish period, truly deserves to be underscored in retelling the history of our nation. As mentioned by Sunstar Cebu in 2018, Cebuano history is more than just Ferdinand Magellan gifting the wife of Cebuano chieftain with the image of the Holy Child Jesus, or Miguel Lopez de Legazpi's soldier finding that image in a burnt hut after a few decades. It is also about the capability of the Cebuanos and the Visayas in general to stand up against foreign aggression as shown by Lapu-Lapu, Arcadio Maxilom, Teresa Magbanua, and the leader of Tres de Abril uprising, Pantaleon Villegas, known by his pseudonym Leon Quilat, to name a few. In today's event, I would like to highlight one of the most significant but neglected chapters of the Philippine Revolution, the uprising of Tres de Abril, which took place at the corner of Guadalupe Road, now Vicente Rama Avenue, and General Wheeler Street, now Tres de Abril, on April 3, a Palm Sunday. The successful but short-lived revolt was precipitated by the tragic murder of 70 Visayan sailors in 𝗪𝙗𝙀𝙗𝙀, Manila, on the 25th of March, 1898, on the suspicion that they were plotting a conspiracy against the Spaniards. In the recollection of Cebuano revolutionary Felix Sales, he mentioned that a mixed group of urban workers, professionals, and gentry had a bloody encounter with the Spanish soldiers in the above-mentioned streets on April 3, 1898. The revolutionaries were led by Pantaleon Villegas, a native of Bacong Negros Oriental, who in collaboration with the Katipunan planned to overthrow the Spanish forces on the island of Cebu. After several hours, around 5,000 Cebuanos besieged the enemy, forcing the latter to retreat to Fort San Pedro. Quilat managed to contain the Spaniards inside the fort for several days, exhausting them with limited food and water. While the rebellion was immediately quelled by the enemy, as the Spanish reinforcements from Manila arrived on the 7th of April, 1898, the surprise victory of Quilat and his fellow revolutionaries in Cebu intensified the desire of the Visayans to continue their battle for freedom. While Leon Quilat was treacherously killed in Carcar, Cebu on the 8th of April, 1898, he already implanted the concept of liberation to his comrades. Thus, despite his untimely demise, the revolution in Cebu carried on as Arcadio Maxilom from the town of Tuburan took over of leading the revolt in the province. In 1966, the National Historical Commission installed a national historical marker for the Battle of Tres de Abril to perpetuate its significance and to preserve the memory of the event for the next generation. In the most recent past, the city of Cebu never failed to commemorate the historic victory of the Cebuanos amid the pandemic. Apart from government-initiated programs, the Battle of Tres de Abril is traditionally lived in performances and celebrations which were hosted by Palm Grass Hotel. However, with restrictions brought by the pandemic, some adjustments were implemented to commemorate the historic event without compromising public health and safety. The enthusiasm of Palm Grass Hotel to live to its landmark as an advocate of Cebuano heritage was emphasized by online news portal Raffle in one of the reports in December 20, 2020. According to Raffle, Palmgrass had coordinated with the Department of Education in Central Visayas to encourage the use of locally published history books focused on Cebuano history as supplemental reading for online learning. Furthermore, while the peak of the pandemic had prevented social gatherings, the hotel continued its monthly online heritage events that invited guest speakers who would share their knowledge on topics pertaining to Cebu's untold stories and history. The report added that during the early months of the pandemic, Palmgrass Hotel spearheaded the Heroes to Heroes, a fundraising drive which assisted the frontliners who had helped not just the hotel to continue its operations, but also those who served tirelessly in both public and private hospitals in Cebu. By the time the Queen City of the South was declared as COVID hotspot in the Philippines by the Department of Health in mid-2020, Palmgrass Hotel offered stay-ins for public officials and medical professionals who arrived in Cebu within that period. In December 2021, again, the administrators and staff of Palmgrass Hotel acted as living heroes by launching another donation drive program to gather funds for the victims of typhoon death in southern Cebu. I am sure that it would take plenty of time to enumerate all the laudable undertakings that the 𝗺𝙗𝙗𝙗 Hotel has done in a span of just 5 years. They proved that their mission to deliver a five-star hotel service featuring Cebuano hospitality that preserves the local cultural heritage is not a mere lip service. We wish that the 𝗺𝙗𝙗𝙗 Hotel will gather more success in the hotel industry and further strengthen its heritage awareness campaign. Congratulations and our warmest greetings and commendation to your advocacy.
Let us give Dr. Rene a big round of applause. Thank you, Doctor, for your very enthusiastic address to all of us. Now, before we proceed to more activities, I was reading some of the comments through our Facebook page in Palmgrass, and there was a question there if those who are not on site, for those who are watching in Luzon, if they're included in the raffle prizes earlier. And my answer for that is yes. So stay tuned, keep posted, and yeah, just wait, just be patient with us. Now, I did mention also earlier that we have a cosplay competition. Okay, so these are our cosplayers, so they are dressed up accordingly since we are celebrating Tres de Abril. So at this point, I will be introducing the cosplayers. So cosplayers, get ready. So I'll be introducing to them the first name first, their first name, and then the character or the historical figure they are portraying. So cosplaying as Mauricia Gahuman, we have cosplayer number 1, Christy. Next up,
Hello. Maayong hapon kaninyong tanan, ako si Mauricia Gahuman.
thank you very much. Cosplayer number 1. Up next, number 2, cosplaying as Padre Toribio Padilla, we have Nikki. A round of applause.
Maayong hapon sa tanan. Ako si Padre Toribio Padilla.
Thank you very much, cosplayer number 2. Up next, cosplayer number 3, cosplaying as Constancia Alaura, we have Rachel.
Maayong hapon sa tanan, ako si Constancia Alaura.
Thank you very much, cosplayer number 3. Up next, cosplayer number 4, cosplaying as Leon Kilat, we have Kyle.
Ako si Pantaleon Villegas o gitawag nga Leon Kilat.
Thank you very much, cosplayer number 4. Up next, cosplayer number 5, cosplaying as Luis Flores, we have Pyro.
Hello. Ako si Luis Flores, usa ka katipunero nga anda mo sakripisyo sa kinabuhi alang sa atong nasod nga natawhan.
Thank you very much, cosplayer number 5. And to complete our lineup, we have cosplayer number 6, cosplaying as Arcadio Maxilom. We have Jomar.
Maybe sa tanan, ako si Arcadio Maxilom.
Let's give once again our cosplayers a big round of applause. Later on, they will be performing in full character. Okay, now, we are already done with the message from Dr. Renee, and we have already introduced our cosplayers. At this point, we mentioned already that we have some books that will be reintroduced to everyone. So to talk more about our books, we have from Palm Grass Hotel, Miss Agripina Givelondo. A big round of applause.
Maayong hapon sa tanan. Maayo ang atong hapon. Malipayon ba ang tanan? Malipayong pagsaulog sa usa ka gatos ug kawhaan ug upat ka tuig, the 124th year sa Tres de Abril ug sa ikalima, the 5th year of the grand opening anniversary of Palm Grass de Cebu Heritage Hotel. Mabuhi ang mga manggugubot sa Tres de Abril. So karong adlaw, 124 years ago today at 3 p.m., the Battle of Tres de Abril happened that was reenacted by our youth ug babuong Teatro Hongkera. So to all our honored guests on-site and online, to the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, Dr. Rene Escalante and his team, to the Department of Education, our partner in this afternoon's event, in our events the past months, with DepEd 7's Mr. 𝘵𝙃𝙧𝙬𝙀, is he already here? So to the heritage community in Cebu, to our partners of the rebranding Hongkera Street, to schools, the University of San Carlos, University of the Visayas, and this was also started by the University of San Jose Recoletos, and with the 5 barangays along Hongkera Street, the teachers and students from academic institutions in Cebu and other parts of the country, to the descendants of the manggugubot sa 1898 nga revolusyon sa Cebu, 1898 Cebu Revolution, to our esteemed resource person who is with us virtually, and he is now in Wisconsin, Dr. Michael Cullinane. He is Cebu City's adopted son. To our talented youth in Cebu, to all of us gathered here physically and online, usa ka mabulukon, makahuluganon, a colorful and meaningful afternoon to all of us. It is a day of celebration because our Cebu heroes have shown us 124 years ago that anything is possible. Defeating a powerful and superior enemy is possible with bravery, selflessness, determination, unity, and sacrifice. It is a day of celebration because Cebu's only heritage hotel has survived and thrived 5 years since its grand opening on April 3, 2017. And that's 5 years ago today. And it has thrived 6 years since its soft opening in 2016. Our event during our soft opening was one of our events during our soft opening was, of course, the launching of the book 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧, The Untold Story of the 1898 Cebu Revolution. And 2 years of that 6 years, or of those 6 years, 2 years of those 5 years are spent in the challenging battle against the pandemic. But still we are here, so we celebrate. So it is a day of celebration because we have seen, we have witnessed the Cebu youth and children writing, illustrating, creating visual art, dancing, speaking, using their talent to honor Cebu and our heroes. It is in our more than 5 years, so you must have already known those who have been with us in our on-site and online events the past 5 years and 6 years, that we have done, we have a heritage awareness program directed towards our youth, for them to know our heroes, for them to know the story of Cebu, and for them to be connected, to connect to their roots, and to be proud of their identity, and to be inspired by the examples of our heroes. In our more than 5 years of collaborating with the youth and children in Cebu, collaborating with them, engaging them to use the different art forms in retelling the story of Tres de Abril, 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙀, of the story of 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙀, and the story of Cebu. I was struck most in 2019 when we launched one of our heritage songs among the Cebu City street children. Because in our heritage awareness programs like storytelling among kids, we want those children who cannot afford to come to Palmgrass. And they are the majority of the children in our community. They can't come to Palmgrass, so we go to them and we tell them the story of 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙀. And we made songs for them and about them and with them. So we have this song, Batang Colon. So you can watch our videos, our songs. We have an 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙀 album at our Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel YouTube account. We already have one song which has already more than 1 million views, and that's Kuyugiko. So when we launched our song, Batang Colon, among the street children in Cebu City, in the Balay Samaritano, in coordination with the SVD, the street children gathered were singing along to our 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙀 songs. They were singing the songs Kinasing. Kinasing is about a puso maker. It is the puso maker asking the community to be with them in their struggles, in their everyday struggles. And then they were also singing to the song Kuyugiko. And then so we launched the song Batang Colon, and that song was made after, of course, interactions with street children in the streets of Colon. So written by Agripina. Although I am not young, but then we coordinated with young musicians also who made the music for that song. So, and then the ones who performed are DJ May Dente. She is a karate black belter, and she's also a beauty titleist. And she was the performer of the song Hugot Pasuot that you have seen a while ago, that won the grand prize at the Cebu Pop Music Festival. So when the children, the street children, heard this song Batang Colon, and then I asked, and then they also heard the storytelling about 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙀. And I asked them after they heard the song, what could have, unsa kahay buhaton ni 𝙃𝙃𝙀? Kung niya pa si 𝙃𝙃𝙀 karon, unsa kay buhaton niya kung makita niya ang Batang Colon? What could have 𝙃𝙃𝙀 done? What would 𝙃𝙃𝙀 do if he saw the Batang Colon? It struck me because one of the street children told me that kung buhi pa si 𝙃𝙃𝙀 ug makita niya ang Batang Colon, ang iyang buhaton kay tabangan niya ang Batang Colon. So if 𝙃𝙃𝙀 were alive today, he would see the Colon street child, 𝙃𝙃𝙀 would surely help the Batang Colon. It struck me because he has heard the story of 𝙃𝙃𝙀. He has heard the story of our heroes. And he was inspired by that story. And that he himself has not lost hope in humanity. He still trusts confidently that there are still heroes who would lead in helping build a better world for children. So that is our inspiration, that if we continue retelling the story, we'll continue inspiring people, the children, the youth, then we would have a better place in the future. The vision and goals of Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, has been to retell the story of Cebu and our heroes to our hotel guests, for them to experience Cebu history and culture right where they stay. And more than that, we want to contribute to the greening of a heritage-conscious community that continues the legacy of our heroes in nation building. We are looking forward to our talented youth becoming better leaders in our community because of their pride of and inspiration from our heroes. We proudly showcase our rich Cebu and Visayan heritage in our rooms for heroes, food for heroes, even in our 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙬 food delivery, our Alima native massage, our outreach programs, storytelling among marginalized children, Heroes to Heroes programs for frontliners, Tinabangay for our survivors of calamities, our visual art, sculpture gallery, our songs, videos, dance, theater, our heritage souvenir items, poetry, our events and books. These have become possible because of our brilliant consultants and heritage advisors, our history scholars, our artists, our Katipunero descendants who have been helping us, coordinating with us, our hardworking and talented PANGRAS management and staff, our talented young artists, our bagong Teatro 𝙗𝙗𝙀 youth, our 𝙗𝙗𝙀𝙀 Street Children's Choir, the supportive Cebu community and media and multimedia, and most of all, because of you, every one of you who are here supporting us, partnering with us, and because of our guests and our customers for there and for your unwavering support. Once again, it is fitting to present to you these books published by Tres de Abril of Incorporated of PAMGRAS at Cebu Heritage Hotel to celebrate this historic day in Cebu and national history. We proudly present once again these books. 𝗃𝙪𝙬𝙬, The Untold Story of the 1898 Cebu Revolution by 𝗵𝙗𝙧𝙗𝙗. We are so proud of the talented children of Cebu who created the story and illustrated the story. Si Leon Kilat ug ang sigbin nga gisugilon sa mga Sugbuanong bata. And also, this book, the 2021 edition of A Short History of Cebu 1500 to 1890s and the Anti-Spanish Revolution in Cebu by 𝗵𝙗𝙗𝘆. So malipayong pagsaulog sa kadaugan sa mga Sugbuanon, usa ka gatos o kauhaan ug upat ka tuig ang milabay. Daghang salamat for journeying with PAMGRAS and helping us survive and thrive in the last 5 and 6 years. Malipayong hapon natong tanan. So the message is from PAMGRAS to Cebu Heritage Hotels, Givelondo family. Daghang salamat.
Right. Once again, another big round of applause for Miss Agrippina, and thank you for that informative and inspiring speech, ma'am. Okay, now before we proceed, okay, so we mentioned earlier that we have guests who are joining us online. Hello, good afternoon to all of you, or good day, wherever you are right now. And also we have some on-site guests, so allow me to give due recognition. We have University of Cebu Psych Department. I hope I am, okay, so hello, sir. And then we also have the USJR Marketing. Where are my fellow Senians? Hello, Senians. Then we have our Cebu local photographers. We also have the USC Polsci, the USC Dash, and the SWU FINMA. And our STC Adamanta and the 010 Philippines Incorporated. Thank you for joining us. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Okay, so now at this point, we already heard Mama Agrippina talking about some messages and the contents of our books. We have a very special segment of our program, and it's a conversation with Dr. Michael Cullinane. And I will turn you over to Miss Agrippina once again so that they can facilitate properly. Okay, so while waiting for the video to be set up, we have a special performance. Okay, we have a special performance brought to you by the 𝗃𝙪𝙬𝙧. So they will be performing a few songs with us. So let us give them a big round of applause.
Sound check, hey. May gabi. May hapon to. Sorry. Sound. Sound, hey. Among tugtugon ng among awit nga original. Awit halad alang sa adlaw sa Tres de Abril. Na naguluhan kiniog. Tawag. So, medyo lahi ni nga musika. Musika ni nga isog. Inaot na atong gamito ng atong gamayng imahinasyon. Atong imaginon ang panahon ni Leon Kirat, ni Pantaleon Villegas. Okay. Ako nagtawag kaninyo, mga isuon sa hinagiban. Sembolo, ora mismo, ay ang takna aniya na. Ang mga kabayo, mga buti ug mga bulo. Nibagting na ang kampana, kay sa gubat mga tu na kita. Piling ang katalaw sa inyong mga balay. Dad-alang ang kaiso dito sa tuwan nga padulngan. Siya sa panlimbaso, mabati ko ang nagsakang puso sa lakat. Paril nga mapukan at
San Astang mga bagani! Gumunta ang ilang mga baril atong paduglan ang ilang mga dughan. Babatiun ta sila sa atong sandat! Atong bukanon usa! Siya sa panlimbasok, mabati ko ang nagsakang puso sa mata. Baril nga mapukan, hagdan sa kadapugan. Matya sa panlimbasok, mabati ko ang nagsakang puso sa mata. Baril nga mapukan, hagdan sa kadapugan. Orasyon sa bagani, sa bala di kamu madudlan. Kay bahala kita di duyulan, kita walay kapildihan. Kumunta ang pagka makahitason, kumunta ang pagka bitahuso, kumunta ang pagka makahimuslanon, kumunta ang korupsyon, kumunta ang pagkaway, pagpagkabanan.
Salamat. Thank you.
Picky ang
All right, another big round of applause to Caballeros with their song entitled Tawag. Okay, so after that very energetic performance, we will now proceed to something more subtle and informative. It is a conversation with a historian, and that will be Dr. Michael Cullinane. Now, to be our moderator, we call back Miss Agrippina, and they will facilitate this talk. Can we give them a big round of applause?
Daghang salamat to Joss, our host, our moderator this afternoon. And also we thank the Caballeros for their performance inspired by the Tres de Abril uprising. So Now we will have exciting conversations with historian, someone who has a scholar who has written so many books about the history of the Philippines and the history of Cebu. So we will be excited. We are so excited to know about love and betrayal in the 1898 Tres de Abril. So we would like to introduce to you right now our resource person in our in this afternoon's conversations on the Tres de Abril. So we have with us an author of several books on Cebu and Philippine history, and he is the associate director of the University of Wisconsin-Madison Center of Southeast Asian Studies. A Cebuano at heart, and I would always say he is more Cebuano than most of us because he knows more about Cebu than most of us. The adopted son of Cebu City, please help me welcome Dr. Michael Cullinane.
Daghang salamat.
Daghang salamat, Dr. Mike. So you have seen Dr. Mike. He has celebrated his birthday a few days ago, and he looks 8, right? It doesn't show that he looks 25. He looks 25, right? And now it doesn't show that it's 2 a.m. right now in Wisconsin. Dr. Mike, thank you for waking up at this time in the morning there.
Mayong
So,
buntag.
maayong buntag sa Wisconsin and maayong hapon, and it is 124 years ago today, the battle at 3 p.m. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the Battle of Tres de Abril happened. So now, Dr. Mike Cullinane has, do you want to say something else, Dr. Mike, to our audience
No,
on site and online?
I'm so happy to be here. It's always a joy to be at the Palm Grass, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. I've spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what the rebellion was all about. So, and I'm sure that you'll be doing that. I'm afraid I probably won't be able to say much, as you have already mentioned before, about love and the revolution.
Love of country.
Love of country, perhaps, but yeah.
Yes. So, Dr. Mike, so you have this book. The Arenas of Conspiracy and Rebellion in the late 19th century Philippines, the case of the April 1898 uprising in Cebu. So this was published a few years ago. What year was it? And then we would like to know, why did you choose the Tres de Abril uprising as a case study in the 1896 Philippine Revolution or the 19th century Philippine Rebellion?
Yeah, I can say quite a bit about that. My interest at the time was to find out a number of things, mainly how did it happen and who were the participants in it. So I spent quite a bit of time trying to study who were the participants by going through years and years of Cebuano newspapers from the period from around 1900 all the way up to the Japanese occupation in 1940. So the first thing I tried to do is to find out who are the people who Cebuanos said were involved in the revolution. The second thing I tried to do is to find out who were they? You know, what kinds of parts of the society did they come from? And of course, the thing to observe is this took place in April of 1898. So it's in the aftermath of the August 1896 revolution that took place at 𝙃𝙀𝙃 and the end of the revolution in 𝙃𝙀𝙃 in December of 97. So this revolution in Cebu took place seemingly a part of that earlier revolution, but seemingly also different than that revolution. Therefore, it's often referred to in Cebu earlier as ang kagubot, right? And the members of who fought in it were manggugubot, and that's a term that was used. I tend not to call it the Katipunan, but there are many people who do. And I understand why they do, because it was in the aftermath. But we have to realize that after the August 96 revolt that took place in Manila and then in the countryside around the Tagalog area, that actually the Katipunan was abolished. And Emilio Aguinaldo created an army and eventually a republic that he declared later, as we know, on June 12, 1898, after the revolution in Cebu. So my task that I set out to do was, as I said before, I tried to find out who were the people in Cebu who engaged in this rebellion, and what can we say about them? And that was my primary effort in that book.
So among all regions in the Philippines, so when you wrote about the late 19th century rebellion or the late 19th century rebellion in the Philippines, so why did you choose Cebu?
I chose Cebu because I'd already been doing many, almost 20 years of work in Cebu already by that time. So Cebu was in my heart, and Cebu is in the area of which my primary research is focused. Therefore, for me, if I'm trying to figure out a revolution, it would be easier for me to know what's going on in Cebu than in other parts of the Philippines. Yeah.
Okay.
And that drew me to Cebu. And plus Cebu, the revolution in Cebu was quite significant. I mean, it was one of the first major rebellions that took place outside of the Manila Tagalog area. And it was quite significant for the Spanish because it came unexpected to them. They weren't fully prepared for a revolt that would take place in Cebu. So it's a provincial revolution outside of the center of the Philippines, from the Manila Tagalog region. And that makes it very much an attractive revolutionary struggle.
So thank you, Dr. Mike. So it was an unexpected uprising. The Spaniards were caught unawares of it. So for everyone on Facebook Live, we invite you to already give your questions as we go along. And then, of course, give your comments for Dr. Mike, because we would be giving him right away your questions and your comments as we go along. So we say hi to CTMG in the National Quincentennial Committee page, and Loida, and also Lyndon Johnson at Pangas the Cebu Heritage Hotel page. And we also saw Regina Yoma watching from the University of San Carlos. So there is also a greeting from the Taguig National High School STO Tapat from Jasmine. So good afternoon po, said Jasmine from the Department of Education. She is a teacher at the Taguig National High School. So so Dr. Mike, we would also like to ask you regarding how relationships how relationships such as marriages, the love relationships, and kinship or family ties were an important factor in the Tres de Abril uprising.
Yeah, and that was one of the major things that I was very interested in. So my first thing going before that was to determine what kinds of livelihoods, what kinds of backgrounds, what kinds of jobs and employment did people have who joined this revolutionary movement. Remember that it was a small percent initially. It was a small percent of the population of the urban area of Cebu. Not that many. Maybe I estimate in the book that there were about 330 or so people that you can clearly identify unequivocally that were involved in the rebellion. And then I tried to figure out who were they. So first, I determined many of them were escribientes, clerks, who served in the colonial government. And as we discussed previously, people who had received a degree of education at the Seminario Colegio de San Carlos previously. The second group of people, for similar reasons, were members of the municipal elites of the city, the Gremio de Naturales in particular, and the municipality of San Nicolas, right nearby Cebu City, had been already become incorporated into Cebu City and then had broken away. So then you start with that. You say, okay, that was a major group of people. people who'd served in the colonial government, and people who served in municipal offices. Then when you look at who else were there, you discover what you had mentioned in the question, and that is that many of these people were related to the people who we already had discovered. So they're their brothers, their nephews, people who worked with them, their cousins, and so on like that. And we begin to see then what I call the kinship or the kin connection, the relationships among various parientes, who are, and mostly men. And we've talked about this before because we're also looking for women who were involved in the revolution. But the people who get identified are largely a fairly large body of men who served in the colonial service, who were members of the local town elites. At the same time, their siblings, their cousins, their nephews, and people who are related to them, which brings kinship into it, and in allowing us to understand how the revolutionaries spread from one family to another. And that's sort of...
Dr. Mike, please tell us about the areas in Cebu City, or in Cebu, in the whole of Cebu, the areas where these manggugubot operated.
Yeah, it starts, I think this is a question because remember that it goes on for quite some time. So as the revolution continues in Cebu, it of course spreads tremendously. Once the Americans attack, it becomes the entire province fighting the Americans. Every town in the province fights the United States. But in the beginning, in Tres de Abril, we're looking at, it's largely the people who are connected to the city of Cebu, right? People who have jobs in it, members of the Gremio de Naturales, which were people who were part of that gremio, and citizens and leaders of the municipality of San Nicolas, which was at the time, San Nicolas, that we always think of San Nicolas today as being a part of Cebu City. It wasn't. It for many centuries, for 3 centuries, San Nicolas was a separate town. It was not connected to Cebu City except along the Pahina River, where you could cross, but it was a different place. And in the city itself, the Gremio de Naturales made up people who were native-born citizens and residents of Cebu City of various kinds, organized through that municipal corporation called a Gremio. That's where most of the revolutionaries came from. They were members of that Gremio, and they were also citizens and residents of San Nicolas.
So,
and it's pretty clear.
So these are, so you were mentioning the town of San Nicolas, and also Cebu City. And so these are, what else? These are the areas where these manggugubot initially, like at the beginning, operated.
Yeah, you can add a few people, and this would be kinship. If you start to extend to kinship and to relatives of various people, I think you can find a large group of people, not huge, but from Talisay. You could find people you could find them all the way down to Karkar, and you can go up into those areas. But largely the members of the rebellion itself in the early stages, particularly in April of 1898, were largely ciudadanos. They were people who were from Cebu City or were connected to them in one way or another by nearby towns like San Nicolas, Talisay, Pardo, places like that. Remember that these were all separate towns during that time. They weren't a part of Cebu City.
So, may you tell us some very important names, the kins or those clans or those families who were the leading manggugubot, the leaders of the kagubot sa Tres de Abril?
Yeah, and of course, you can't leave out your own relative, your own connection, as the Gibelondo, Isidro Gibelondo was involved. Yes. The other people who you've already seen tonight, Luis Flores was featured in some of the earlier performances. The Talisay brothers, the Alino brothers, and people who came from Talisay were involved. You've mentioned already Alejo Mendoza, who was also from that area, who was involved. There were a number of people from I think if you go to to San Nicolas, where you had lots of very active people. People like Candido Padilla. We have the Jacintos, the
Pacanya.
Pacanya family. You have people like that who were very much involved, including some of the
Abeliana.
Abellana was involved, but not all the Abellanas. Just one group of them was very much involved, and so you get a lot of the families that are traditionally from San Nicolas. I think the interesting one, of course, that everybody is mentioning tonight is 𝙁𝙗𝙀𝙃, and Pantaleon Villegas, who is not from Cebu. He's from Negros Oriental and from Baco, but he worked in Cebu. He had several jobs in Cebu, and he had much contact with the inner city of Cebu. He actually worked for a German pharmacy in Cebu during much of his time, but he also traveled to Manila. He also was engaged. We think he was probably in a circus. He was a very talented person. And when he goes up to Manila, he does indeed get caught up in the early stages of the revolution up in that area, and brings many of those ideas down to Cebu. There were also people who worked for Smith Bell, who were involved as bodegueros, and various people who worked in the warehouses of the British company Smith Bell. And we find a lot of them being involved as well, who had connections. And that's actually the connection between Smith Bell and its trading ships with Tondo that leads to the idea that there may have been a connection with the old Katipuneros, who lived also in that area of Manila in the Tondo district. So that's a really interesting part of the story, but it's not very well known, and it's not very well documented very well. So, but it's intriguing.
Yes. Dr. Mike, when we went, we actually went as far as Bacong, Negros Oriental, and we talked with the descendants of 𝙁𝙗𝙀𝙃. And they told us that even if 𝙁𝙗𝙀𝙃 was born in Bacong, Negros Oriental, his grandmother was actually from Karkar. Not his mother, but his grandmother was from Karkar, and his grandfather married, but his grandfather was a pure Spanish, and then got married to a native of Karkar. And that's how his father, 𝙁𝙗𝙀𝙃's father, traveled to Negros Oriental. So we would
Yeah.
still say he is a Cebuano.
Well, even from Negros Oriental, he would still be a Cebuano.
Yes. And so so those are the names. So even here at Pangras, we have named our floors in honor of these manggugubot. So we have the second floor, 𝙁𝙗𝙀𝙃, the third floor, General Luis Flores, the fourth floor is Candido Padilla, the fifth floor, we included Padre Toribio Padilla, sixth floor is General Arcadio Maxilom, and the seventh floor is, of course, Lapu-Lapu. So we have suite rooms also named in honor of Cebu heroes. And then we named some rooms in honor of the women in history in Cebu during the Kagubot. So there were only a few. So we would now like to ask you, this is the interest of our women advocates. So when we had a discussion a few days ago, during the National Women's Month, in celebration also of the International Women's Day, we had a discussion on the women warriors in the Visayas. So we discussed about who were the women leaders of the Kagubot in 1898 sa Sugbo. Who were were there women? So please tell us about them.
And you know this already because you've read the book. So in the book, I identify 3 women, and you've already featured them all this evening in your costume group, which were like Constancia Laura and Julieta Padilla and Maricia Gahuma. So when I'm searching for people who listed people in any way, shape, or form who were involved in the fighting and in the conspiracy to engage in a rebellion on Tres de Abril. So I'm limited to what people say. I'm limited to the sources that tell me who the Manggugubot were. So I can't make them up. I have to go with the sources that I'm given, and I'm only given those three. But I think we could assume that these meetings that took place all over the city to plan this revolution, they all took place in people's houses. They took place where there were women who were very much involved in the thing, but they've remained largely anonymous. And we don't know who their names were. We don't know what their involvement was. We don't know what their encouragement was or their stake in the revolution itself. It is not to say that they were not there. It's just to say that their names do not appear in records that can be used by historians. So this is the limit of history. I mean, history is limited by its sources, and what we can gather. And I would have liked to have found a lot more women in the story, but they're not there in what I'm looking at. So
Yes. So there was actually a discussion a few
did you
weeks.
find others?
Yes. So 𝙃𝙪 Gahuman, there were three women who created the flag according to the measurements of the Manila flag. So these were 𝙃𝙪 Gahuman, Buena Ricardo, and Justina Peña. And also in your bio sketches of the names, so we have here so in this book by Dr. Cullinane, there is a bio sketch of about 300 leaders of the Kagubot sa Tres de Abril. So the Manggugubot, there are bio sketches, and we are so inspired by this book. If you go to the room at Palmgrass, most of those description of the heroes at the wallpaper, at the headboard. So these names and the description were from Dr. Mike Cullinane's bio sketches, but we shortened them and we shortened them, and we also translated into Bisaya or Cebuano. So there is a Cebuano version of this on an old map of the Philippines with a highlight on Cebu. So among the 300 names, so diba you said, Dr. Mike said that he only included those who were mentioned in publications at least 2 times or 3 times, Dr. Mike. So there are so many of those who were part of the Kagubot, the conspirators or the leaders, the Manggugubot, but he only included those who were mentioned 3 times or 2 times in publication. Among the 300 names, only 3 women are here. Paulina Padilla, who was already more than 50 years old. Juliana Revillas, a propertied mestiza, the wife of Candido Padilla, who was an active planner of the uprising. She actively participated in planning the uprising. So we were so inspired of that, Dr. Mike. We made a song and a video out of it. It's Gugmang Gihandom, inspired by the love story of this couple who were Manggugubot. So it is in Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage YouTube. So we cannot show it right now because it's we have shown that so many times already in the past. So that's the 3 women, the 3 illustrious and lucky women who got to the list of the 300 Manggugubot conspirators. First was Paulina Padilla, of course. Leon Kilat also ate there, stayed there, and also he was there right before the eve of the uprising. And then of course Paulina Padilla, nearly 50, soltera, and we have Juliana Revillas, the wife of Candido Padilla, and we have Constancia Alaura, also a soltera, and from Ermita, and she is a part of the kin of the Alaura Manggugubot, Simplicio Alaura, Casimiro Alaura. Grabe, I really studied your book, Dr. Mike. so those 3 are the only women. And then that's why we are so sad because there are only 3 women. And then when we go back 300 years before that, the women in Cebu, in the Visayas, had a high place and role in society. They were the spiritual leaders. There couldn't be wars without them. There couldn't be a slaughtering of pig without them. The chiefs couldn't be buried without the babaylanes. And then what happened? So Dr. Mike, tell us about this. What's
No,
your
no, this is not true only in the Philippines. It's true everywhere in Southeast Asia that traditional healers and women and practitioners, babaylan and people like this, were largely female. And that began to change, I think, as Christianity elevated men as the practitioners of religion. You know, it's not to say that that's bad. It's just that's what happened. Is that, and you see a transition. It's not just in the Philippines. It occurs in many parts of Southeast Asia, where as male-dominated religions like Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, that ordained and had men as their practitioners for these faiths, the women fell into the background because women weren't allowed to hold these practitioner positions, you know. But in the spirit world, women have always been at the heart of many of these of trances, of interpreting spirit things, of various kinds of performances that relate to these things. They've been quite prominent over the years, and I think in many places in the Philippines still are, you know, in terms of traditional religious patterns.
Yes. So there is already a question for you, Dr. Mike. This is from Taguig and Pateros, a teacher, someone who always joins Pamgrass Heritage events. 𝙃𝙪𝙜𝙧𝙧 Aparticio, his question is this: how was the Cebu uprising comparable with its Visayan neighboring provinces in terms of armaments, leadership, unique way of fighting, and victories? How was the Cebu uprising comparable with its Visayan neighboring provinces in terms of armaments, leadership, unique way of fighting, and victories?
That's a huge question. And of course, it starts by, I wasn't writing, so I also am very interested in, there's a lot of stuff been written. So Ang Kagubot sa Sugbo takes place on April 3rd. That is just the beginning of the revolution. It's the first moment of the revolution. That revolution continues all the way till 1902 and includes not only fighting the Spanish, it includes also a long war against the United States that begins in the early part of 1899 and goes all the way up to 1902. All through that period, the form of fighting differed. It starts out at the Battle of Tres de Abril, where Filipinos are largely with swords and sundang and various kinds of things of that sort, and very few rifles. But whereas as the war against the Americans continue, some of the rifles are obtained, and then it becomes a different kind of warfare. And it becomes a warfare where you're fighting the Americans in a guerrilla form. But the Filipinos had guns at that point. It was a different kind of a battle, and it went on for a very long period of time. It involved many thousands of people in the Visayas rather than just the small group that led the rebellion in Tres de Abril. Tres de Abril spreads very quickly, and it goes out through the province of Cebu, crosses over into other areas. Other areas revolt on their own. It becomes very complicated after 1898. And keep in mind that Spanish rule ended in December of 1898, and the Spanish left forever. You know, and at that moment, the Americans showed up, defeated the Spanish in Manila, and began to take Cebu by February of 1899. By the middle of 1899, Arcadio Maxilom, Juan Climaco are leading a very large group of Filipinos who have formed an army that has allied itself with the Philippine Republic and is actually at war with the United States that lasts for a very long time. And that's a very bloody war, and it involves many more armaments, many more battles, many more situations where people were killed and the Americans creating atrocities and trying to figure out who the enemy is. So it's not just one thing. You couldn't summarize the whole thing from Tres de Abril. You would need to go from Tres de Abril to the end of 1902. That's a very long period of time. and it's almost 5 years. And Rachel's book Rachel Mojares has an excellent book on the war against the Americans, and it's very complete and has a lot of information in it about how these battles were fought, where they were fought, who fought in them, and so on. So it's a field that if you want to look it up, there's a lot of materials to find.
Yes. So now we would like to ask you regarding the occupation and the social class of these conspirators or the manggugubot, and what were their motivations in leading the uprising?
This is of course with rebellions, it's often difficult to know what makes somebody join a movement, but it's very obvious that the previous movement that had taken place in the Manila Tagalog area, that what we today call the Philippine Revolution, already had numerous ideas that were spreading about breaking with Spain, going against the friar lands, a whole series of issues that Filipinos had at that time that would lead some of them to join. What we always have to look at, however, is how small the revolutionary group was compared to the larger population. So when you look at that small group of people, what is motivating them? And you see that one of the things that if you're looking at escribientes, they have the closest relationship with Spaniards. They are in a racial hierarchy where some of them are very smart, very talented, and they having to serve under Spaniards. That's one thing you can see very clearly. If you go to the municipalities with the town leaders, they're also they're able to run their own towns without Spaniards, and they're being lorded over by provincial officials and tax collectors and people who are coming from a more solid Spanish system. There's lots of abuses in this system, and you could see lots of reasons why Filipinos might want to revolt against them. But we still have to come back and remind ourselves, still very few people revolted. This is not thousands and thousands of people. It's 300 to 400 people in a city that at the time was about 20 to 30,000 people. If you include San Nicolas, it was even bigger. So it's a small percentage of the population. Therefore, we want to look at the reasons why they did it, and their kinship relations to me seem to matter, because we find a lot of brothers, we find a lot of nephews, we find a lot of cousins, who are involved in the thing. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm trying to figure out who revolted. The question is, why is more complicated. Why? Is it, they're not all Jose Rizals, they're not all Emilio Bonifacios or Emilio Aguinaldos or Andres Bonifacios. They have different backgrounds. They're from different people, but the Manila Rebellion had a similar profile. So when you look at the profile of the Katipunan in 1895, 1894, 95, 96, it has a similar profile of people who worked as employees of the government and members of the Principalia and people who worked in the trade areas. And it's a very similar profile that I have tried to draw some connections with over the years.
Yes. So before that, why in 1898 you have been saying that the Cebuanos could have rose up even without the Manila Katipunan?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so, because people were rising up all over. The Katipunan had a very well organized system of forming an organization through blood compacts with connections with Masonic movements and Masonic organizational structures. Those kinds of things didn't really exist in Cebu in the same way. They were later, and by this time the Katipunan is not over, so it's not even existing anymore, even in Manila. It is abolished by Emilio Aguinaldo after the start of the revolution. So and then what does Aguinaldo do? I mean, he arrests and executes Andres Bonifacio and his brother. So what you basically have is the leader of the Katipunan is killed by the leader of the Philippine Revolution. And that's not something that settles very well in a revolutionary struggle. So it's, for me, it's more complicated, and you need to really get down to a kind of a personal level to figure out what puts someone into a revolutionary movement and what puts someone not in a revolutionary movement. And why do people join? Why do people not join? Those kinds of things happen all the way through every country all the time. And I know that this is, everyone wants to know that everyone was seeking their independence and their freedom from Spain. And that makes sense to me. But why then did only a very small majority of the population join the rebellion? Most Cebuanos, this was not necessarily a Cebuano rebellion. It was a group of Cebuanos who revolted.
So, Dr. Mike, according also to these books, of course, they were quoting, of course, Felix Sales and Peso Sango. So, 𝗃𝙫𝙬 mentions about also this account about there were also initiations to the same, similar to the Katipunan. I mean, those blood that designed with their blood, and these were done in the Alaura house in Ermita. And also, Emil Stimbase was quoting a Abeliana that there was already a Katipunan chapter formed in June 1897.
Yeah, I'm reluctantly calling it a Katipunan chapter. There was an organization in San Nicolas that was formed by Abeliana and others, but at the time, we can look back at that today and call it a Katipunan because we have the history of the Katipunan that we all know. But at the time, they didn't call themselves that, and that wasn't a term that they used at the time. And they used it as a very careful way of organizing people in a secret group within it. And I think the presence of the Alaura family is interesting because that's the family, as you pointed out already earlier, where 𝗺𝙗𝙧𝙬 lived. I mean, he organized people in that household. And here's what we do know about him. He did have experience in Manila. He did know a lot about the Katipunan because he'd gone to Manila and brought some of those ideas back. But I don't think it was widespread across the group of Manggugubot who did that. We will find vestidos, in all the hanig that you can find that people used to wear. And that 𝗺𝙗𝙧𝙬 was also, as you have shown earlier tonight, was a major person who introduced some of the anting that were important that one should use when one goes to battle. But I just keep reminding everyone that I'm thinking of this as 330 odd people. It's not 10,000 people, doing it. It's a small number of people who led the way in this revolutionary struggle. Therefore, they need to be remembered because they were the leaders who led the way in this, and other people followed in the wars that came afterwards. And thousands of Filipinos followed in the war against the United States.
Yes, and thousands, according also to 𝗃𝙫𝙬, thousands wanted to become members. They were recruited to the Manggugubot, to the organization. After the Battle of Tres de Abril, so many people came to become members of the movement against the Spaniards.
It's easy to say that. It's harder to prove it.
Okay, so now, Dr. Mike, we would like to ask you regarding this, the role, because according also to your bio sketches, there were so many Manggugubot who were educated at the seminaryo. So what was the role? What was the important role of the Seminario Colegio de San Carlos? What did it play in the Tres de Abril uprising?
For me, it was a critical role because so I have attempted to identify who are the people who were primarily members of this Manggugubot group. And I've tried to identify that they were employees of the colonial government, escribientes and people of that sort. Luis Flores was a procurador of the Juzgado de Cebu. So they are educated. They cannot hold those positions without speaking Spanish, reading Spanish every day of their life, and being somewhat educated and knowledgeable of the system. The same is true for the principales of San Nicolas and the principales of the Gremio de Naturales. They're all at this time in the 1890s. You had to have had a certain level of being able to speak Spanish, and the way you learned that is by attending the Seminario Colegio de San Carlos, and therefore that's what I was looking for in how many of the Manggugubot actually attended school, and quite a few of them did. Others, who didn't attend school received education privately. There were lots of private maestros, and teachers in Cebu City during this time who you could study under without enrolling at the seminario. But the seminario was right dead center in the middle of the city. It was within blocks of all of the offices, and it was very much a part of Cebu City, and it was run by a group of friars, the Vincentians, the Padres Paules they were called, the Vincentian priests who were closely allied with the bishop, and they played a huge role in the production of secular clergymen. And those secular clergymen that were trained also became very important in the Philippine-American War. So education was something that clearly drew people in to thinking about their situation, their relationship within colonialism, and gave them reasons for changing that relationship and going forward. And therefore, the main place in the Central Visayas to obtain that education was the Colegio Seminario de San Carlos. It was dead center in the middle of all of this.
So we would see that those educated at the Seminario Colegio de San Carlos were from the different places in Visayas and Mindanao. They were not just from Cebu. So we have like Bonifacio Aranas, who came from Camigan. We have other but he was not educated at the seminary. Luis Flores was from Samar, and then we have other Manggugubot who came from the different areas. We have the Florencio Gonzalez, who was from also from Surigao. So please tell us more about that.
No, that's the whole point. This was so if you go back to the 1890s, the only major secondary school in the entire Central Visayas and Northern Mindanao was the Seminario Colegio de San Carlos. So if you wanted to send your kids from the West Coast, mostly it took people from anywhere, not just from Cebuano-speaking areas, but also from Eastern Leyte, some Samareños. Many of them came, including Bishop Singson, who was actually from Samar and came. So in the Central Visayas, Negros Oriental, Bohol, Northern Mindanao, Siquijor, Western Leyte, Eastern Leyte, all of Samar, and of course all of Cebu and Negros Oriental. These were people who naturally went to school. If their families were going to send them to school, that's where they sent them. And if they were richer families, they might send them to San Juan de Letran up in Manila. And that was largely for families that could afford to send their children up to Manila for education. But it was easier and cheaper to send kids to the Seminario Colegio de San Carlos in Cebu. So it's a hugely important institution at this time.
So now, this very important question. And this question is, why was Leon Quilat, Pantaleon Villegas betrayed and killed in Karkar? And who were these families involved?
You want me to out the families? They've been outed already by members of their own family. Alfafara and others have written books about this and pamphlets that are available at the Cebuano Studies Center. So it's not. I'm going to those sources. So, but if you went to any town, first of all, Karkar was pressured to be attacked by the Spanish. Leon Quilat chose Karkar after they left Cebu City as a place where they would regroup. They would go down because there had been Manggugubot from Karkar. So they go to Karkar as a place where they assume it's safe, and that they can reorganize their group and figure out what they're going to do next to fight the Spanish. The trouble is the elites of 𝗃𝙗𝙗, the people who manage 𝗃𝙗𝙗, who had not been involved in the revolution, are suddenly seen as people who might be manggugubot. And if a Spanish reinforcements that were bombing Cebu City at the time and killing many people inside the city, they were now taking their boats down to the coastal areas of Cebu in the southeast, including 𝗃𝙗𝙗, and putting troops onto the ground to attack the town. So the town leaders, the way the story is told, the town leaders had to make a choice to either themselves be arrested or perhaps killed by the Spanish, or they could turn 𝐸𝙁𝙁𝙁 over to the Spanish. In this case, they killed him and turned his body over to the Spanish, which of course then suggested that they were loyal to Spain. And all that does, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're even loyal to Spain. It means that they don't want to be killed. They don't want to be arrested, because this was a very dangerous moment when Spain was brutally attacking people after the revolution occurred. And it was a very dangerous time. And these men, these leaders, some of them, leaders of San Carlos or of 𝗃𝙗𝙗, made a decision to deliver the body of 𝐸𝙁𝙁𝙁 to them to avoid the punishment of their own town. And the Spanish may have even burned the whole town down. So it's a choice.
So, but then, even with 𝐸𝙁𝙁𝙁 murdered and betrayed, the revolution continued. And so, what would be the reason? What would be the reason that even with 𝐸𝙁𝙁𝙁 being killed, the revolution continued?
It didn't continue in 𝗃𝙗𝙗.
Yes, not in 𝗃𝙗𝙗.
But remember, when the Filipino revolutionaries, the manggugubot, left Cebu City, they didn't all go to 𝗃𝙗𝙗. They scattered into different areas, and one of the most important areas that Luis Flores and eventually Arcadio Maxilom and eventually Alejo Mendoza, they went into up into the mountains of Sublon. And they went over to the west coast, the Contra Costa, or the 𝙁𝙁𝙁𝙯. They went over to the towns of Toledo and Asturias and Balamban and Tuburan, and that's where they went. And they also went up into the hills. And the Spanish knew they went up in the hills, and the Spanish attacked them in the hills. So from April 8th, when 𝐸𝙁𝙁𝙁 is killed, all the way up until the end of Spanish rule, the Spanish are attacking them in various ways, in various places. And that's where the revolutionary group really grows large, because that's when they start recruiting people all over the towns of Cebu to fight against the Spanish. And then the Spanish finally give up in December, but they give up also because they're losing in Manila. The Americans have already destroyed their fleet and have already attacked. By August of 1898. The Americans had destroyed and captured Manila. So then the Spanish actually are in bad shape, and they actually leave in December. But the manggugubot didn't just all go to 𝗃𝙗𝙗.
Yes.
They spread out to different areas.
Yes. And then we would say that because of that major meeting at the house of Isidro Gibilondo, where they elected the officers. So we're so proud that the ancestors of Pamgras, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, Isidro Gibilondo, it was in his house that the major meeting was held, where they elected the officers, right? With Luis Flores as president, and then there were different officers. Arcadio Maxilom was chosen as the one to lead the manggugubot in Tuburan. So after that, actually, it was Jacinto Pacania who got in touch with the Tabal brothers of Sudlon. So it is in these books, the details of how they assembled in Sudlon. So, of course, Juliana Rebillas actually went up with Jacinto Pacania, Paz Javier, with the family of Jacinto Pacania, and the Tabal brothers communicated with Jacinto Pacania to go to Sudlon. And that's how they contacted Luis Flores, Arcadio Maxilom that's why they had this. They assembled. They regrouped on May 20, 1898. So, so now, with this last question for you, and then there would be questions from the audience and maybe from the reactors. So before the reaction from our on-site reactors, so there is also a question from Ferdy, a partishu, who is asking if the Cebuanos, if the Cebuano, if the Cebuano resistance if the Cebuano resistance receive assistance from abroad.
Like overseas?
Yes, that's the question.
It's again, I think it's a question that if you're asking about Tres de Abril, or are you asking about the war that takes place from April 1898 all the way up to 1902, you have a different situation. In Tres de Abril, I would say no. You know, that they pretty much
local.
Yeah, it was mostly very local. But as the war spreads, the other thing that's going to happen is when the Americans come, guess where the Filipinos are going to get their weapons? From the Spanish. So that you get the Filipinos suddenly have Mausers and other kinds of rifles that they didn't have before because the Spaniards are fighting the Americans also. You know, and so there's a much larger group of weapons. You can't necessarily call the Spaniards foreigners, you know, because they were already there.
They were the enemy.
It becomes a much more complicated, much more involved warfare when you get into the end of the 1890s and into the early part of the 1900s. And then it looks very different than it did on Tres de Abril. And the same would be true of the Katipunan. One of the reasons that Bonifacio has to leave Manila after he declares the revolution is because they can't really fight the Spanish in Manila. They don't have the weaponries, but the countryside does. So when they get out into the territory of Aguinaldo and Santiago Alvarez, into the countryside of the Tagalog area, there's a lot more access to weapons out in that area. And you could raid the Guardia Civil headquarters, or you could get the Guardia Civil to join your revolutionary struggle, because many of them were Filipinos. And therefore, you have a whole new set of weapons that you didn't have before.
So, Dr. Mike, so when you think, because you said that the kins, the family relationships, the marriages played a big role in the Tres de Abril uprising. So I would like to ask you, is this relevant for the social movements in the present day Philippines? Do you think the kinship, the family ties, the kins would also play a big role in movements for social change in present day Philippines?
Yeah, I think, of course it would. But I would also think there's so many other things that play maybe a larger role now, like social media, which we're doing here, that the flows of information from one group of people to another are so much more dense now than they were before. So if you're looking in the 1890s, you know, and you get Candido Padilla and his wife, you know, they're connecting with fewer people. They're not on their cell phones every day. They're not on the media. They're not Wi-Fi. They don't have computers. They don't write even letters. So the society is closer with who you are living with, who you are talking with, who you visit, who you go to the market with. Yeah, and I think those are still really important connections. I don't think those connections go away or that they're not important. I just think that the connections that people have now for social movements is huge, unlimited almost, in the way that you can reach out. Filipinos can reach out to any corner of the world whenever they wish.
Yes, through group chats and messages. So now we would like to have the reactors or their reaction from our on-site reactors after this video. So we made this video. We had the unveiling of the General Arcadio Maxilom sculpture last January, the end of January. We should have unveiled it during the December 29th, the celebration of the of the 1898 Cebu Revolution against Spain, but because of Typhoon Odette, we moved the unveiling to the end of January 2022. And to prepare for that, and then because of that, we have this video made on General Maxilom. And of course, you would still see Dr. Mike Cullinane in this video. So this is the video made by the PAMGRAS team, the PAMGRAS multimedia team. And this is General Maxilom, the last man standing.
Si Arcadio Maxilom ang usag yun sa pinakadugay na ni surrender sa gubat, no. Daganang ka ng mga leader sa anti-Spanish nga war before nga murag mas nauna sa pag-surrender, pero lahi si Maxilom kay medyo dugay gid sa ni surrender, no. So niaway gid sa kontra sa mga Amerikano.
It starts with an increasingly important town on the northwest coast of Cebu. Many people are competing for the land in that area, and the most prominent landowners in Tuburan were the Maxilom family and the 𝙃𝙃𝙀𝙀 family. These two families are now connected, and that Fausto 𝙃𝙃𝙀𝙀, the contrabida of Arcadio Maxilom, they're actually stepbrothers. What brought Arcadio to Cebu City and to San Nicolas? And that was, of course, after the 𝙃𝙃𝙀𝙀 family began to take over the politics of Tuburan.
𝙃𝙃𝙀𝙀 Fausto accused him, slandered him of being head of one of the terrorists of the Katipunan in Manila. He decided to leave his family and move to San Nicolas.
Maxilom's educational level was much less. We realized that he worked closely with the parish priest of Tuburan, a man named Father Mauricio Esmero. Esmero was very influential in teaching Spanish to Arcadio Maxilom. So he was educated locally. He is a leader from the town of Tuburan who comes to the city of Cebu towards the end of the 19th century. And in San Nicolas is where he met many of the people who were later involved in ang Kagubot sa Cebu in April of 1898. He lived there, he met and worked with Luis Flores, Candido Padilla, all of the major leaders of the ang Kagubot in April of 1898, in that spot where he became and emerged as a leader.
Si Arcadio was a natural leader. Kanang magdula ang mga bata, silang mga bata, mo-organize dayon na siya.
Spanish Guardia Civil occupied Tuburan. He observed tyrannies, abuses from the Guardia Civil to the extent of molesting women.
Arcadio, he was a very brave general. Pero pag abot na gani sa family life, pag abot na sa asawa, mahadlok na siya. He was considered under the saya.
He continued his march to the town of Tuburan together with 30 people. He entered the town and warned the civil guards, surrendered without shedding blood. However, on April 15, the steamers Bais and Vizcaya arrived, and the Battle of Tuburan began. This lasted for 8 hours, from 5:30 in the morning until 1 a.m. And his brothers, cousin, and nephews died. This combat left the town deserted, and because of the anger of the cazadores, they burned the entire town, but they saved the church, the convent, and the camarin of Fausto 𝙃𝙃𝙀𝙀.
Arcadio Maxilom and other Tuburanons encamped at the mountain of Anihaw after the Battle of Tuburan against Spanish forces in mid-April 1898. The mountain, which is now known as Betrayal, also became one of Maxilom's camps in the war against the Americans.
Ako lang gipakita diri ang usa ka murag scene sa gubat, no, kay si Maxilom manggod daghan man ni siya kaning battles, no, kay gikan sa katong ilang revolusyon kontra sa mga Spaniards, no, and then sa kuan pod ang ilasang kaning gubat kontra sa mga Amerikano. Makita diri nga si General Maxilom murag ni emerge siya, no, murag siya ni saka gikan sa trenches, murag medyo maalam sad sila gamay sa kaning art of war, no. It's a sign of bravery on his part, no, nga ang iyang leadership nga dili siya mahadlok against the bullet.
Ako lang.
In almost encounter he has, always victorious. Yet he's not seen in the area of operation. There were talks na may anting-anting siya. Kanang anting-anting na hindi makita.
Luis Flores, presidente of the Republican, Philippine Republican representatives in Cebu, with the other generals around him, elects Arcadio Maxilom as governor of Cebu to replace Spanish General Montero. The Spanish government, led by Montero, surrendered Cebu and its official properties to the revolution. He hears of the arrival of the American gunboat Betrayal. The flag of the Americans were already raised at Fort San Pedro.
Some of the leaders of Cebu City at the time signed the peace document. They surrendered the city to the Americans. But the rest of the forces and many of the people the civilians in it, they didn't surrender. They moved to San Nicolas. Then when the Americans spread out into San Nicolas, they moved to El Pardo. Maxilom has not himself surrendered, but many people in Cebu City had surrendered. Later in 1900, in January of 1900, against the Americans who were attacking, he surrenders, but then later, after he realized that the Americans were really taking control, and he begins to decide that he needed to resurrect the revolution against the Americans.
Actually, he did not surrender. There was no declaration of surrender. In the statement, he said, according to the rule, that I will not surrender my love to my country.
A round of applause for that video. We thank our resource persons, Dr. Michael Cullinane. We have Dr. 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙗, and we thank also the people of Tuburan, especially the mayor and the vice mayor and the assistant Steve Salipot, who facilitated our trip, our visit, and our shoot in Tuburan, and also the descendants of Arcadio Maxilom in Tuburan, who showed us the photo of the wife of General Arcadio Maxilom. Thank you to Marivir Montibon. She is based in New York, but she was able to tell us about how Maxilom was under the Saya. When General Maxilom was the very brave general, he had a commander-in-chief above him, and that was 𝙃𝙀𝙁𝙃𝙁. So we thank our multimedia team, our consultant, Prospero Lapot, our communications advisor who used to create our videos, but then because of the pandemic, the team had to create it with of course, the advice from our consultants. So daghang salamat to our sculptor also, Rodel Paredes. And you would see that sculpture of General Arcadio Maxilom right now at the lobby. So now we will have these reactions from our partners in our event today. First, may we have Dr. Mike Cullinane again. So we have with us the chair of the University of San Carlos Political Science Department. Please help me welcome Mr. Regine Lakibol for his reaction.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Palmgrass. Good afternoon, Dr. Mike. Good afternoon, members of the audience, for giving me this space, this opportunity to be sharing my reflections. I'd like to call it reflections, while hearing out earlier the great insights from Dr. Mike and his interactions with the members of the audience. His inputs earlier reminded me of the 3 stages of love, they say, because we're talking here about love, betrayal, and what have you. The first stage that I am able to be reminded earlier is the stage on love for self. This is about acknowledgement of what you can and cannot do. This is about being aware of what your past has been, and so that you can move more effectively for the future. This is about acknowledging that you have the competence and commitment for yourself, so that you can personally affirm to the best of your version of yourself that you can share to others, so that you can have the choice of what kind of love you want to be projected to the others, in the same way that Dr. Mike has that love, no, for Cebu by contributing a number of his works. He has written a number of works about Cebu, just like how Pantaleon Villegas, Leon Quilat decided to reach out to and join the Katipuneros and to lead some of the uprisings. And which leads me to my next stage of love, which is the love for community. Because I believe that if you just restrain yourself for your love for self and not transition to love to community, not much will be accomplished. So I'll be talking now about the love for community. And I believe this is about awareness, that you share a space with others, with other people. This is about acknowledging that you have a role and function within the context of influencing others. This is about your obligation to coexist, to be guardians of each other's. And it reminded me earlier about the inputs on relationships and parientes and kinships in Talisay, in Karkar, in Pardon, even San Nicolas, as mentioned by Dr. Mike earlier, just like how women leaders, Padilla, Culiana, Laura, or Manggugubot, or conspirators in general, who decided to forward the best interests of their community. And I think this is manifested by that stage of love, the love for community. However, the benefits of what they have manifested, no? What they have interest in mind, does not stop there, which leads me to my third stage of love. Since we're talking here about love, love for country. This is about finding meanings with others within the context of legitimate political territory. This is about collaborating towards a collective identity and aspirations. And in this case, the identity of the Cebuanos, the identity of Leon Quilat, being a contributor to the richness of our history in the country. This is about responsibility towards collective actions, the consciousness to serve for and with others, so that you can better journey yourself with your fellow men towards a destination that we all want, freedom. No? The 1898 Tres de Abril uprising is but an expression of that selfless service to further the freedom of Cebu in particular, and the Philippines in general. And the results of this uprising would not have been made possible if there is no translation from love for self to love for community and eventually to love for country. However, just like what we expect, in every facets and phase of love, there will always be betrayals. And you know for a fact that Leon Quilat himself was betrayed by some of the Cebuanos, in Karkar, as mentioned earlier. And if we are to translate it in contemporary realities, this is about betrayal to Filipinos of misinformation, for example, disinformation, for example, capitalizing by politicians on armies or trolls to forward, fake news and what have you. And I believe there's a need for us to profess that we have to translate another higher level of love here. No, not just love for country, but love for our future. This betrayal can also come in the form of misgovernance, misinformation, mismanagement. No, and we're talking now here of not just the present of the Philippines, but also the future of the Philippines. I'm very happy earlier that there was a mention about education, because I believe the way to move forward to address these betrayals, these common forms of betrayals or contemporary phases of betrayals would have to be education. What must be done? We need to educate, continue to educate. We need to continue to be conscious of what is our history. We have to know more who we are as Cebuanos by rekindling our past and getting to know more about the history of Cebu. And I really appreciate Palmgrass for continuing to do this, educate the Cebuanos, especially the youth. We have to know what vision do we have with our fellow Cebuanos. And more importantly, we need to decide, given that vision, given that, information, that education, to collectively advance actions to realize our vision. And this demands for intensive and careful education for us to appreciate even further our history and not to revise it. So let me probably end my reflection, ma'am, no, as a way to reinforce the call to action. Let us all together reinforce the call to action, especially for the upcoming 2022 national and local elections. I believe that whoever, since I'm representing the Department of Political Science, it is but necessary that I forward this call to all Cebuanos who are conscious that we have to bring about our collective action towards clean, honest, accurate, meaningful, peaceful, and safe 2022 national and local elections. Let us learn from our history. Let us learn our collective Cebuano identity, that the Cebu can bring about better change, no, in our country, because this is the translation of our love for ourselves, eventually translating to love for our community, and eventually to love to our country, and to have love for our future. We need to require ourselves to translate those stages of love, because if we abandon the consciousness to go about those stages, we will be, victims of our own history. So let me end that way, ma'am. Thank you for this opportunity to share my reflections, my humble reflections, and I look forward to joining you in our constant effort to educate our Cebuano and our country, fellow Filipinos. Daghang salamat and padayon ta, Cebu.
Daghang salamat, Professor Regine. Professor, very beautiful insights. And then we are also actually inspired. Tres de Abril is a day of love. It's not just Valentine's Day, which is a celebration of love, but Tres de Abril is a celebration of self, celebration of family, and a celebration of love of country. And then, of course, if they did not love those relatives, if they did not love one another and each other, they would not work together to fight for freedom. So, Dr. Mike, is it about love? So we are also would like to share with you that at this, if you would see our wall, so this essay, we had an essay writing contest in coordination with, in cooperation, in partnership with the Department of Education Region 7. So may we show that part of the wall. So we have, and then of course, these are the posters in the poster making contest on the 500 years of Cebuano heroism, from the time of Lapu-Lapu until the modern day heroes. And the on the spot essay writing contest talked about how can the leaders of today? How can today's leaders be heroes like Lapu-Lapu and Leon-Quilat? And you would see very beautiful insights also from the students, from the grade 7 to 12 students of Cebu. And they said, of course, the leaders should be selfless. They should have a sense of community, and they should be brave, and they should be decisive, and always think of what would be good for the people and not of foreign interests. So we are so proud of these young students, our young people who are able to already see that what should be the characteristics and the qualities of a good leader. So Dr. Mike, we're so happy that they have read about Leon-Quilat, they have read about Lapu-Lapu, and the young people can now talk about leadership and heroism. So do you have, so we are still waiting for questions on Facebook Live, but we will now have the reaction from one also of our partners. He is from this, he graduated from the Cebu Normal University, magna cum laude of in the Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Social Sciences, and he is now connected. He is now the coordinator of Social Studies and UMS in Paref Springdale School. Please help me welcome Jomal Umamalin for his reaction.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much, ma'am. And good afternoon to the members of the audience, and as well as thank you so much to Pamgras, the Cebu Heritage Hotel for this opportunity, and as well as to Dr. Cullinane for having us here this afternoon and morning in Wisconsin. So as Sir Eugene here might have shared his, reflections, and I would say that am here to share my realizations. Well, for one, is that although I am born here in Cebu City, I was raised from Region 9, Zamboanga del Norte, in the city of Dipolog. So essentially, I would not really say that I was raised as a Cebuano, but my roots hail from San Fernando, among the clan of Umamalin, which comes from two Cebuano terms, uma meaning to farm and mamaling meaning to fish. When I was still in college, way back in 2013, when from Dipolog all the way here to Cebu, I always passed by Tres de Abril Street, going to Barangay Punta Princesa. And I've always wondered, why is this called Tres de Abril? Because that wasn't really discussed in the historical narratives, in the generic historical books, which is made available to our different schools. And it is only until later on that I began to realize that where in fact the movement towards national liberation in the context of the Philippines was not only limited to that of movements there in Manila, but where in fact is that Cebu, being one, or if not the first settlement being founded way back in 1562, I believe, in the second 1565, sorry, in the second expedition led by Juan Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. It is only then that we are able to realize that truly that Cebu plays a very significant role in the historical narrative of the nation. And through the different discussions, because we're talking here about kinship, relationships, love, and betrayal, in the Tres de Abril uprising, that we then there come to realize that outside of materials being made available to us, because history books merely just tell us of events as they happen, it does not necessarily imbibe to us the stories behind the unfolding of these particular events. And that is there when we realize that family values actually played a very substantial role towards the mission of national liberation and national freedom, particularly in this particular setting, in this particular context, so the Tres de Abril uprising. There we begin to realize that truly that it's not merely the Manggugubuts themselves who were just merely involved, but it is, in a sense, a web, a myriad of relationships which fueled, it's not only a matter of logistics, but it is through these family relationships and through these family values which fueled the moral need, which fueled the need for the will, the need for inspiration, the spirit of revolution, for the spirit towards the achievement of liberalization, that we only then come to realize that truly the roles of their aunts and uncles, their cousins, their brothers and their sisters played a substantial role in the national movement. So it is in that regard that we begin to see eventually also the complexity of family relationships, of relationships with friends, with relationships with comrades, with colleagues, and so on and so forth. That although that when we come to realize that although at part because of our very great passion towards a particular mission, we might be blindsided, in the certain aspects that we believe that we are, that people around us are fully loyal with our mission, but in fact, because of a certain consideration for the self, that's when then betrayal comes into the picture. And we also have to look into the perspective, let's say, of the people of Karkar at that particular time, and why did they have to do what they did? No? Why did they have to sell out Leon Quilat to the Spaniards? Well, for one, although they understand that the family lineage, the genealogy of this particular person is well connected to that of their own locality, but it is a matter of looking into what is the lesser evil. We have to look into that there's the lesser evil. What do we have to sacrifice in order for us to consider and to what you call this, to preserve what we have now? So it's there then that we come to understand that love and betrayal, particularly not just in the context of revolution, and not just in the, but essentially in all contexts involving relationships, that betrayal, love, loyalty, disloyalty, revolution, rebellion, obedience and disobedience, it's essentially a what you call this, a pull on the rope on both ends. And it depends on which side is stronger. So in that regard, we then come to realize that truly there is very much great complexity behind the realizations and the motivations of why this particular uprising came into the picture. So it is through then that we come to understand that there really has to be prudence on our end, no? Because we don't know, for some sort of reason, people we may have believed to be loyal to us would eventually stab us in the back. But we have to also look at it in a particular historical perspective, that there could be a greater purpose behind these particular motivations. So it is in that regard that I realize that truly there is more drama in history than is portrayed in our historical books and historical literature. That if we look at it from a little bit of imagination and a little bit of flair into our minds, then we get to see that history at some point is really a telenovela, that we get to see the love and betrayal shared by different components and characters in these different stories. So history is very much interesting. It's just a matter of how we present it and how we contextualize it in our own lives today, that we can hopefully begin to realize how truly important are family values, how truly important is love, betrayal, and all of these different things. So right now, for all we know, family values, because of globalization, it's slowly starting to dwindle and evaporate. Hopefully not, although that we're going to go back to those particular roots. But we then come to see of how important human connection is and how complex human relationships are, especially as we begin to unfold forward into the future and towards a future which we hope to have. So again, thank you so much to Dr. Cullinane, to the PAMGRAS, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, and to the members of the audience for this very great opportunity. And I hope that I was able to relay my reactions in the most effective and efficient way I can. Thank you so much, and good afternoon again to everyone.
Daghang salamat at Teacher Jamal for your challenge to the audience, to those who are trying to learn about history, to look for the drama in history. And of course, Dr. Mike has been telling me, because I was asking him, do you know about the love life and sex life of 𝗪𝙗𝙗𝙗 Maxilom? And he said, I failed you. I was not able to ask when I interviewed his grandson in 1970. So you would also see drama, and like you would be watching a movie when you would be reading about the battles in here in Dionysius's account from Felix Salis, and translated by Peso Sango, and also in this book, also from the accounts of Katipuneros. So, I was telling Dr. Mike that when we had our 𝗪𝙗𝙗𝘆 play, we really need to look. We wanted to look for the love life of General Leon 𝗪𝙗𝙗, and we tried to look for a woman manggugubot who could pass as a love interest. And I told him, among the three women, because Paulina was 50, Juliana was married to Candido, we chose Constancia Alaura, because Constancia Alaura was Leon 𝗪𝙗𝙗. Constancia Alaura was personally recruited by Leon 𝗪𝙗𝙗. Leon 𝗪𝙗𝙗 stayed in her house for so many nights, and then she was a visual. She was distributing leaflets and amulets, and so she was so inspired by Leon 𝗪𝙗𝙗. So we have songs about that. You watch 𝗪𝙗𝙗𝙗 on YouTube. It's about a girl who loved Leon 𝗪𝗪𝙗𝙗, but of course Leon 𝗪𝗪𝙗𝙗 only loved the country. But unfortunately, when Dr. Mike was writing the bio sketches, he did not include the boyfriend and the girlfriend, only the ones married. So there are so many things to do by historians looking for the drama in history. So Dr. Mike, so do we have more questions? Do you have one question from the on-site audience? So we have one from, may we have a microphone for our on-site audience? So please, do we have the camera for the audience who would like to ask? So we have Nelson 𝗃𝙀 your fan, Dr. Mike. So he is from the History Lovers, an online group of the History Lovers of Cebu, and also a descendant of Katipuneros. We have Nelson. So Nelson, what's your question for Dr. Mike, or reaction?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, especially Dr. Mike, my friend and my idol, my esteemed idol from the United States of America. I just have a question regarding the Seminario Colegio de San Carlos, because I've been studying about that school for quite some time. So I read the book Reseña Colegio de San something, Reseña Colegio de San Carlos. It's like a book about the anniversary and some sort of yearbook of the school. So what I noticed when I read the book is that the graduates of that school were mostly affluent people. So I surmise that they might be from affluent families themselves. So my question is that what are the social classes of these people or graduates or alumni of Seminario Colegio de San Carlos? Because maybe there could a possibility could be is that when they graduated from that prestigious school, they might have become affluent people by rising to the ranks. While it's true that the schools in Manila are more expensive and more famous, but I think Seminario Colegio de San Carlos is also not cheap, because, you know, it's just what I surmise from what I read from the book. So could you clarify on that?
So thank you, Nelson. So Dr. Mike discussed regarding the social class, but then we need you to briefly again, Dr. Mike, describe the social class of those who studied at the Seminario Colegio de San Carlos, who also became the manggugubot of Tres de Abril.
Hi, Nelson. How you doing?
He came in
Long
late.
time no see.
He came in late.
Always late, as usual.
No, we exchange emails frequently about various things. No, so for me, the Reseña Histórica was edited by Jose Maria Cuenco, who was one of the secular priests of that time, and it was published in 1917. So that kind of dates it in the early part of the 20th century. So I would agree with you. First, is that the majority of the students, particularly those from around Cebu City, are largely from affluent families, however you might define that. Like affluency at that time is a rather interesting term. It doesn't always mean rich, but it means that you're well placed within like the Gremio de Mestizos or the Gremio de Naturales, or as a bureaucratic position in the government. So it's pretty easy, therefore, to identify the students, if they're from the Ciudad de Cebu or from Cebu City. Where I think it really becomes more interesting is when you look at the students from the province, and you start to really try to figure out who are the people who came to the seminario from Oslo, who are the people who came from Barili, who are the people who came from Asturias, and when you do that, you begin to see that it's not necessarily the major landowners of those areas, but often the people who held positions of authority in those towns. They were the members of what the Spanish used to call principalia, the principales of the town. And that's kind of interesting to see. But always for me, the more interesting thing is to find someone who wasn't that, and then who snuck in for some reason. Therefore, when you come up to Cebu City, and you live there from some other town, you can live in the dormitories themselves, and those were called internos. In other words, the students who lived with the Vincentians in the college, and then there were the externos, those who lived with friends of their family or lived outside of the school. And that to me was really interesting, because if you had a relative in Cebu City, you could save a lot of money, because your kid, your son, could stay with a relative in Cebu City and not have a great expense, except for any kind of tuition payment that you have to make to the seminario. So it is, I think I go case by case, and I go case by case anyway, Nelson, because I look at each individual family and try to track them backwards into where they came from, what did they do with their education, and how did it move them forward. And it's super. I'm glad you're studying San Carlos, because it's a hugely important institution.
So was it expensive, the tuition of Seminario Colegio de San Carlos?
Not certainly by the standards that we would think tuition is today. Although when we hear the stories, you hear the stories of like Don Sergio Osmeña, is that his tuition was paid by others. In other words, he had sponsors, and probably Nicasio Chongeloso, and people like that, or other priests. Priests often sponsored students. The parish priest from your town would sponsor you to go. So one of the most famous Cebuanos is Miguel Logarta. Miguel Logarta, who went not only to the Seminario de San Carlos, but was then sent to the University of Santo Tomas. He was paid for. He was from a relatively not poor family, but a sort of we would say a lower middle class family of Mandawi, and basically he rises up because the parish priests of Mandawi and other people sponsored his education in Manila. So that and Osmeña himself was sponsored, and therefore you wonder, if these people were not sponsored, would they have not gone? Would they have not had the role in history that they ended up having? And it's always very interesting. So I think we can agree that we can work together on that.
Daghang salamat, Nelson. So daghang salamat
Thank you,
for answering that question. So of course, Dr. Mike was telling us that the occupation were escribientes, and then of empleado, of those manggugubot, and most of them comes from the social class principalia. But Dr. Mike was also telling us that those in the ayuntamiento, the Cebuanos, the Cebuano Gremio de Naturales and the locals didn't like or hated was the ayuntamiento of the Spaniards. And Dr. Mike was telling us that you were telling us the comerciantes in Cebu were part of the ayuntamiento that's dominated by the Spaniards, and that was why the middle class were the ones who rose up against also the richest locals and with the Spaniards. Was that it?
Just a word about the ayuntamiento. It was only lasted for the last 8 years of the Spanish period, because it was created in 1890 and it was crushed in 1898. So it only lasted for 8 years. But it was more like a city government that was not a gremio. It was a city government that went after the gremios and took control over them. The top of it was Spaniards, but underneath, in the middle, and many prominent members of the ayuntamiento were from many of the powerful Cebuano families, 𝗵𝙗𝗄, Osmeña, Reyes. All of these people were alcaldes and alcaldes tenientes and people of the. So many Cebuanos played an important role in the ayuntamiento, but the top governing group were Spaniards.
Yes. So we really have so much more to know about our history, but time is running out, and also we need to have the closing statement because we have other parts, the cosplay contest and the awarding of winners of our impromptu speech contest. So now we would like to get the closing statement of Dr. Mike Cullinane.
I think I've said enough already. I would say thank you for the opportunity of speaking, and it's been a pleasure, and I hope that everyone keeps studying these things and you keep wanting me to come back and say something, because it's always very enjoyable.
So, daghang salamat, Dr. Mike. Let's give Dr. Mike Cullinane a big round of applause. And we look forward to his coming to Cebu in a few months or years. So, and then also watch out for his next book on governor in Inicencio Higuera. Was it The Governor and the Bishop? So the governor and his enemy, the bishop. Daghang salamat to Dr. Mike. Daghang salamat to our actors and to our audience. So I give you again to our host, our
Okay,
moderator
thanks.
in our event. Maayong buntag, Dr. Mike. Thank you
Yep.
for staying awake the whole time. So we give you again our moderator in the event, Josh.
Thank you.
Hello, once again. It's already evening here, so good evening, everybody. Once again, let's give a round of applause to Dr. Mike. Doc Mike, thank you very much for joining us. Miss A for moderating the talk, and to our reactors, Sir Eugene and Sir Jamal, for giving us, you mentioned reflection and also insight into the talk. So thank you very much. Now, at this point, before we proceed to the third part of our program, I was just looking around here, and I saw, if you look at the sides, we have here some of the write-ups. That is from our impromptu writing contest. And here on my left side are the poster designs made by our students, of course, all inspired by our event right now. So we'll get to see, and of course later we will be announcing the winners for these contests. And before we proceed to our cosplay, I would just like to take this opportunity also that to celebrate the 5th anniversary. So aside from our Tres de Abril celebration, we are celebrating the 5th grand opening of Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. Now, Palmgrass presents to you our hashtag Rooms for Heroes gift certificates that you can avail for the entire month of April and use for the rest of the year. So that's 50% off our published rooms room rates in our fifth grand opening anniversaries special. That is our special gift for you. Once again, that is hashtag rooms for heroes gift certificates, and this is valid until December 31 of 2022. Okay, so I believe it will be posted or updated through our Facebook page. So keep posted. It might be posted after our program. Okay, now, yeah, so we are going to proceed to another highlight of today's event, and that is our cosplay competition. Now, this isn't our normal cosplay competition because just to share, I have emceed or hosted cosplay events before in malls and other venues, but in this particular cosplay competition, they're not just embodying fictional characters, they are embodying and they'll be portraying characters from history. And we are lucky enough that our judges are in that line of history. So without further ado, I would like to reintroduce, okay, because they were introduced earlier, because they were our reactors, and this time they will serve as judges for our cosplay competition. So once again, from Para of Springdale, we have Sir Jamal Omamalin, and from the University of San Carlos Political Science Department, we have Sir Regine Lakibol, our judges for our cosplay competition. Let's give them a big round of applause. Okay, so cosplayers at the back, are you ready? Okay, I heard someone say they're ready. Okay, so one more minute, not 1 more minute, but a few moments from now, you'll be here. You'll be performing in character. So we'll be calling you one by one. Okay, and again, after this, we will also be awarding the winners for our different competitions. So let us begin. I call on the first cosplayer, cosplayer number 1. She is portraying 𝗺𝙗 𝗃𝙗𝙗. Let's give it up for Christy.
Maayong hapon kaninyong tanan. Ako si 𝗺𝙗 𝗃𝙗𝙗, usa sa 3 ka babay nga nagtahi sa bandera sa Pilipinas, kauban sila Buena Ricardo ug Justina Peña. Pagkayab didto sa Sudlon, niadtong 1898, gera sa Sugbo batok sa mga katsila. Daghang salamat.
Thank you very much. May we request cosplayer number 1 to please return here in front, because our judges will be asking some questions.
So before that, we would like to translate what 𝗺𝙗 𝗃𝙗𝙗 said. So she was one of those who created the flag in Cebu. She is with Justina Peña and Buena Ricardo, who created the flag in Cebu for the Cebu, and that was flown in Sudlon.
Thank you very much, Miss A, for the translation. And now let us go to our judges. Cosplayer number 1, get ready. So may I ask who would be asking first? Okay, Sir Mamalin.
Hello. Okay. Good evening. Okay, so to contestant number 1, thank you, and good evening. So my question is this. So for you, what specific trait or characteristic of 𝗺𝙗 𝗃𝙗𝙗 should the youth today continue to uphold? Again, for you, what specific trait or characteristic of 𝗺𝙗 𝗃𝙗𝙗 should the youth today continue to uphold?
Our cosplayer, before we proceed to answering the question, of course, our cosplayer are in character, so they will be answering in Cebuano. And we will we'll try our best to translate it properly to our audience who are watching us live from outside of the Philippines. You may proceed, cosplayer number 1. The question was,
So ang pangutana kung unsa ang kinaiya, the characteristics ni Mauricia Gahuman nga sundon sa mga batanon karon. So please answer and look at the camera.
Hello. Daghang salamat sa imong nindot nga question, sir. Kana as Mauricia Gahuman, kung sundo niya ang mga kabatanunan karon kay kaning Wait, sorry, sir. Sorry. Kaning as Mauricia Gahuman, ang niaging kuan kaning niaging panahon mas nindot og but-an niya og daghang salamat. Sorry.
it's okay. Thank you very much, Christy. Okay. So, okay, let's proceed to cosplayer number 2 this time. He is cosplaying Toribio, or rather Padre Toribio Padilla. Let's give it up for Nikki.
Toribio Padilla. Ako kay usa ka lumad nga pari nga nahimong kapilan sa Cebu, Katipunan. Ako nagserbisyo isip kuro paroko sa siyudad sa Sugbo Katedral. Gikan sa tunga-tunga sa 1880 hangtod sa pagtapos sa Espanyol na pagmando ni adtong 1898. Gikan ako sa usa ka prominente og piling pamilya sa San Nicolas. Busa, maayong gabi o daghang salamat.
Padre Toribio Padilla served as the chaplain of the Cebu Katipunan, and he also served as the parish priest of the Cebu Cathedral, and he comes from a prominent family in San Nicolas.
Now we proceed to the question from our judges. We have Sir Regine.
Ngayong hapon, I'll try to translate it in Bisaya also, but let me ask the question in English first. Is it necessary for the members of the church to take part in politics? Kung ibisaya pa, kinahanglan ba manghilabot ang mga padre, membro sa ato ang church sa politika sa Pilipinas?
Sir, daghang salamat sa imong pangutana, sir. Sa ako ang kuan, sir, dapat nga mo apil ang mga pari sa ilabi na sa una sa panahon ng revolution sa kanang Spanish against sa mga Katipunero, sir. Kay ang mga silbi sa mga revolutionary kailangan sila pag-amuma ba, dili lang kayo sa kanang kuan kundi spiritual food. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cosplayer number 2. Okay. So to translate his answer, we have Ma'am A.
So, Nikki, Padre Toribio Padilla said that during the priests also have to participate in politics, especially during the Spanish occupation or during the Spanish time, when the priest should take care of others and also the spiritual needs of the people.
Thank you very much, Miss A. Okay, thank you very much, cosplayer number 2. And now we proceed to our third cosplayer. She will be embodying Constancia Alaura. Let's give it up for Rachel.
Mayong hapon kaninyong tanan. Ako si Constancia Alaura, usa sa na-recruit sa Cebu Katipunan nga gipanguluhan ni Leon Kilat. Ako usab ang nag-distribute sa mga basahonong papel ug ako ang mga namuno sa mga pulong-pulong nga nagipahigayon sa among balay. Ako usa ka babay nga walay gikahadlukan nga niapil sa revolusyon niadtong 1898 batok sa mga katsila. Ako usab ang nag-distribute sa anting-anting nga gikan ni Leon Quilat og kauban si 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙗. Salamat.
Miss A.
So Constancia Laura says that she was recruited to the Katipunan. She joined the Katipunan, and it was in her house that meetings were held, and she also distributed reading materials and also amulets from Leon Quilat. And she is a woman who fears nothing. She is a fearless woman who joined the revolution in 1898.
Thank you very much, Miss A, for the translation. Now let's have our judges again.
Right, so thank you again. Good evening. So the question is this: how important is the role of women in national history? Again, how important is the role of women in national history?
Ang pangutana kung unsa ka importante ang papel sa mga babay sa kasaysayan sa nasod.
As a babay, very important ang kanang kuan sa usa ka babay. Kay kung wala ang babay, wala ang magkuan sa ato ang balay, wala ibubarog para sa ato mga anak. Ang babay is a powerful. Siya jud nga tanan-tanan nga makabalo. Kung unsay nahibawan sa lalaki, kabalo sad ang mga babae ana. Thank you.
So
Miss A.
Constancia said that women have very important roles in the family and in the house, and also whatever men can do, women can do. So that's what she said.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss A, and thank you, Rachel, for your answer. Right? Now we go and proceed to our fourth cosplayer. He is cosplaying none other than Leon Quilat himself. Let's give it up for Kyle.
May adlaw kanyong tanan. Ako si 𝙃𝙁𝙁𝙗𝙃 o mas gitawag nga Leon Quilat. Gikan pa ko sa Negros Oriental. Ako ang leader sa Tres de Abril. Daghang salamat.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Miss A. Okay, so to translate, his real name is 𝙃𝙁𝙁𝙗𝙃 Villegas. He is our leader here of our local revolution. And just to add lang, he is of course wearing his anting-anting along with his weapon and his, if I'm not mistaken, what do we call this one?
Vestidora.
Vestidora. Okay, and now we proceed to our judges.
Right, good afternoon. Question, if Leon Quilat were alive today, what would have been his advice sa kabatanunan to the youth on how to handle betrayal?
Okay, to translate, kung buhi pa si Leon Quilat karon unsa ang iyang mga abiso para sa mga kabatanunan karon in terms of
how to handle betrayal.
Kanang giluiban.
Okay, giluiban kana.
Gibetray.
Nawala ko sa own translation. I am very sorry. Okay, naluiban.
So kung ikaw si Leon Quilat, unsaon nimo pag-advise ang usa ka batan-on kabahin sa kanang unsa na bislaing term sa betrayal kanang sige.
Usa ka batan-on. Usa ka batan-on sa patagtapok natong barkada. Aduna jud nay usa ka betrayal. Pero dili nato i-focus ang atong kagalingon sa usa ka butang nga negative energy. Mas mo-focus ta sa positive energy para kitang tanan maligpayo.
So Kyle was saying that in a group of friends, there's always one who betrays, but we don't focus on the negative energy, but on the positive energy so that we will all be happy.
Thank you very much,
Daghang
Kyle.
salamat kaninyong tanan. Mabuhay ang Katipunan!
Mabuhay! Okay. Daghang salamat, Kyle. Now we proceed to our fifth cosplayer. He will be embodying Luis Flores. Let's give it up for Pyro.
Leader sa Katipunan diri sa Cebu nga nakig-away batok sa mga mananakop nga mga Kastila.
Okay, so to translate, he is Luis Flores. He is one of the Katipuneros here who risen up and defended it from our katuwatong mga kontra na mga Spaniards, Katsila. So let's proceed to our judges. Question.
Right. Again, good evening. So my question is this: what leadership characteristic is very important towards the achievement of national unity? So what leadership or what leader characteristic or what characteristic of a leader is very important in achieving national unity?
Miss A.
So Luis Flores ang pangutana unsa ang kinaiya sa usa ka leader nga aron nga makahimo og unity or aron nga maka-lead padulong sa panaghiusa ang mga tao. Unsa ang kinaiya sa usa ka leader nga makapahiusa sa mga tao?
Para nako ang maayo jud nga leader para makapag-iusa sa mga tao kay usa ka leader nga kamao mamuno nya naay dako nga paghigugma sa mga katawhan ug andam sad mo song moaway mamatay para lang sa atong nasod ug sa yutang natawhan. Daghang salamat.
So for Luis Flores, the characteristic of a good leader is someone who can lead and who has love for the people and who is ready to fight and ready to die for the people.
Thank you very much, cosplayer number 5. And now we are down to our last cosplayer. He will be embodying Arcadio Maxilom. Let's give it up for cosplayer number 6, Jomar. Once again, cosplayer number 6, cosplaying Arcadio Maxilom, Jomar. Let's give him a big round of applause. Okay, so Jomar is unavailable. That means we only have our 5 cosplayers. Let's give them a big round of applause. Okay, may we request all our cosplayers to please be here in front so that everyone here, atong audience, online, and of course our on-site audience can see you once again. Again, cosplayer number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, Mauricia Gahuman, Padre Toribio Padilla, Constancia Laura Leon Kilat, and Luis Flores. Please be here in front. So that everyone can see you, can move forward. Okay, let's give all our cosplayers a big round of applause. Let's give it. Okay. So let's have a simple picture taking, and you can pose as your character in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so our judges are currently finalizing the score, and we will be announcing the winner of our competition later on. Can we give our cosplayers here a big round of applause? Okay. Okay, so kindly stay there for just the meantime. So cosplayers, yeah, just stay there for a while. Now, while waiting for the results and later on the announcement of the winners of our different competitions, we will have once again the Caballeros. You witnessed them earlier with a very energetic song. They have another song. This time, if I may, is it okay that I introduce the song? They will be performing Sugilanon sa Usa Kabantugan. Okay, so what could be the story behind this song, sir? Okay, so while they're setting up here, once again we have while they are setting up here, allow me to just mention that later on we will have a raffle draw, and the winner will be part of the heritage, or they will have a free heritage trail adventure that will be on April 27, 2022. Okay, that will be the winner for our raffle draw. And then later we'll have some trivia questions, okay, both for our on-site and online viewers. Okay. Also, I just like to plug in that we also have tonight, we have Hugyaw sa tuig 5 sa palm grass here at 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙗. Okay, so do we have our okay, are you ready, gentlemen? Okay na? So once again, we have the Caballeros, and they'll be performing the song Sugilanon sa Usa Kabantugan.
Kining mong awit halad sa bantugan arong adlaw. Walain kundi si Pantaleon Villegas ang binuhat nga ang manggugubat nga di tawgan og Leon Kilat. May kaisog daw Leon o kaabtik daw Kilat. Andam na mo musakay sa kabayo ni Kilat. Awiti ako ikaw mag-awit sa sa katuigan. Awiti ako mag-awit sa karaang panahon. Awiti ako sugilanon sa kabalerong banggihitan. Awiti ako mag-awit sa kabayo niyang buutan. O bato sa katuigan, pasakya ko sa imong mga bako. Para kong karaan, awiti ako sugilanon sa usa ka bantugan. Whoa. Awiti ako ikaw mag-awit sa watis sa katuigan. Awiti ko ako sa panggihitang nagsakay sa kilat o litik. Awiti ako pakitugig mga adlaw sa kadaugan. Awiti ako awit sa bayaning gibudhian. Bato sa katuigan, masakya ako sa imong mga bako. Sa balakong karaan, awiti ako sa kinausaw sa kabantugan. Bato sa katuigan, masakya ko sa imong mga bako. Sa panahong karaan, awiti ako sa usa ka bantugan. Sakay sa kabayo ni Kilat! Bato sa katuigan, masakya ko sa imong mga bako. Parang karaan, awiti ako sukilan sa pagbalik sa kabantugan.
Once again, that
Maraming salamat.
was Caballeros, and that was the song Sugilanun, Sausa Kabantugan. Another energetic performance from our
Salamat.
band. Round of applause!
Thank you, Ma'am Grass, especially to Ma'am Caridad Gibelendo sa opportunity nga na-play na mo ang among composition nga ngayon gid niya ning gabi una na. Hugyaw 124th year, tuig sa Tres de Abril. Thank you so much.
All right, once again, that was the Caballeros. And we hope to really hear more songs from you guys in the near future. Daghang salamat. Okay, so we're done with our very meaningful talk earlier, and of course, we still have the announcement of our winners for our cosplay competition. But at this point, this time we will be involving the audience both online and on site because we will be having some raffle draws. Okay, so we have here the lovely Miss A with
we will have a free Heritage Adventure Trail this April 27, and this is the 501st celebration of the victory at Mactan. So the Heritage Trail at Palmgrass, the Heritage Adventure at Palmgrass involves doing traditional chores of Cebuanos and Visayans like maglubok, magtahop, knowing about our history, our heroes, appreciating the artworks, the rooms, named in honor of heroes, and also arnis, tinikling, and then weaving the puso.
So it's really an immersive.
Maglubok, like pounding rice, and also magtahop.
It's an immersive tour, ma'am. They will really experience.
This is usually this has a rate like per head or per group, but then the lucky people, the winners, will get a free heritage trail, adventure trail at Palmgrass with snacks.
Yes.
With free
yes.
native merienda on April 27.
And let me just add, the snacks here in Palmgrass are the best. So thank you very
Lami
much.
kaayo.
Yeah.
So first we have the on-site audience, the raffle. So we will pick 5 from the on-site audience, and we will also pick 5 from the online, but we make sure that they are in Cebu
at that time.
At that time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
maybe we should pick about more than 5 from the online, because maybe some of them wouldn't be here.
Yes.
So,
Okay, so
5.
let's
Ikaw na.
No, ikaw lang, ma'am. I will be the one to shake lang. I will be the one to shake, and then you.
So,
okay, I'll be
the first
the first winner for our on-site. Congratulations to one of our caballeros, si Sir L. de los Santos. Where are you?
Second.
Second winner from our on-site, we have from the Adamanta organization, we have Elvin Bacaltos. Congratulations. Wow. 3 more from our on-site. Cross your fingers, guys. Okay. Congratulations to, again, one of our band members, Mr. Julio Gakasan from Caballeros. They're very lucky today. And next up, mention ako. Okay, still from the Caballeros, it's Dennis Gakasan. As you can see, this is not planned. It's really their time. They're very lucky today. And the last winner from our on-site, we have, okay, this time from our Zero Teen Philippines Incorporated, we have Miss Mary Jean. Congratulations, Miss Mary Jean. So these are the winners of our on-site. That will be for our Heritage Trail Tour. Again, it will be on Okay, we still have one more. Okay, wow. Okay, sige. From Miss A. Okay, so one more. This time it's from UC Psych Department. We have Sir Dionisio Mabia Jr. Congratulations. That is our 6th winner for today.
That would be on April 27 at 3 p.m. So, dinner na ikahuman. Dili pa day snacks pa day. 1 hour or not 2 hours. 2 hours. You will get ready to lubok, to tahop with pictures and video of Facebook Live. And then, so we also have our winners from the audience online.
So online audience, if you are still with us, hi. Okay, I hope you're still there. From our online audience, congratulations to Venezuela. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Venezuela Menandro. Congratulations to you. Another one from our online audience. Oh, I think this is their Facebook handle. I'm not sure if this is not a real name, so I'm just going to mention it. It's pronounced as Shell, CHEL. Okay. Congratulations to you. Okay. And then we have another winner online, Lynn Manuel. Congratulations. One more. This time, Miss Charis Tanod, still from our online viewers. So we have 4 already from our online, and one more. One more. This time it is, congratulations, Daniel Padihan II. So if you're still with us, if you're still watching, congratulations to you. We will be publishing your names later at the end of our program. Once again, congratulations both to our online viewers and our on-site. Enjoy your tour soon. Okay, so once again, congratulations, winners. Now, at this point, so we have our raffle for our Heritage Trail Adventure. Again, that will be on April 27. This time, we have another game, and that is our trivia quiz. Okay, so we have 2 questions ready, but we only have one winner. We'll only have one
we
winner.
have 3 questions.
All right, the 3 questions.
So
my
the
mistake.
first question is for the on-site audience.
Yes.
Only those on-site can join. So everyone, even the cosplayers, can
yes,
join.
even the ones here. Okay, so appeal na ko naman.
Di ka, okay.
Okay.
so, okay, bawa mo ka sa answer.
Oh no, saksi. Okay, so pwede malimtan ka jud. Okay, so for our first question, again, the winner will be sa on-site. So, get ready, ha? The question is, in whose house was the Cebu Katipunan Major Organization meeting on April 2, 1898 held? Again, the question, in whose house was the Cebu Katipunan Major Organization meeting on April 2, 1898 held?
So
Who wants to try, ma'am?
What?
It's a una Grace.
So the prize for this is an 𝙃𝙃 cake, a
Wow.
cake named in honor of Leon Quilat, and it is the main ingredients are carrot and calamansi. So the one who would like to answer, you go to the microphone. Where's the microphone?
The microphone, okay.
Asa man ang kuan, ang camera.
Okay, let's have it here. Okay, dire lang, at least you can, you'll be seen by
So our cosplayer, Luis Flores, he was the one who was the presiding the meeting. So what's the answer?
What's the answer?
Luis Flores.
House?
Is it Luis
In whose
Flores?
house?
Oh, I am sorry, it's not. Okay, who wants to try? Okay, okay. Who is the cosplayer number 1? What?
Constancia Alaura.
Is it Constancia Laura? No, it's not.
In whose
Ganan mo clue?
Ayaw na, dili na. Wala na clue kay Kabaw. Kataw dito una, oh. Okay ni una.
Oy.
Sige. Daog na ni Daan.
Actually, no, the answer is really kanang murag siya kanang may pagka distinct siya, no, kay
distinct.
The Katipunan in Manila was it was first the meeting was held sa 72 Azcárraga House, which is ang akong last name is Azcárraga. Then ang meeting nga nahitabo diri sa Cebu sa balay ni 𝙃𝙃𝙃𝙃, which is murag meant to be good sila ang last names.
So the answer is
𝙃𝙃𝙃𝙃.
𝙃𝙃𝙃𝙃. Congratulations. Yes, Miss A is a direct descendant.
It's
So Azcárraga.
And wow. Well, this is really surreal, so to speak. Okay, so congratulations. You can claim your cake later. Congratulations. It's only for the on-site. Next up, for question number 2. This time it will be for online. And the prize is 𝙃𝙃𝙃 mug. So they will be sending it to you. It will be online. So are there people still online? Okay, Miss A is actually looking right now.
So the 𝙃𝙃𝙃𝙃 cake can be claimed at Kapihan ni Lumaya, Upamgas, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. And our second question has the prize of an 𝙃𝙃𝙃𝙃 mug. 𝙃𝙃𝙃𝙃𝙃 mug at Pamgras Sinugatan Gifts from Cebu. So this is the question.
The question is, okay, name a place in Cebu where most of the leaders of the Tres de Abril uprising lived. So asa sila gapuyo dire.
So only those online will answer.
Okay,
so
for
you
those who
answer.
are online,
through the
Okay.
comment section of the
Yeah.
Facebook Live.
So answer through our FB comments.
Also, those
Okay.
at the National Quincentennial Committee page can answer. So we still have viewers at the National Quincentennial. Someone already answered, and
Okay.
the one who got the correct answer is
And
Mark Dale Cruzada.
Mark Dale Cruzada, and his answer is San Nicolas. Let's see the answer. Congratulations, it's San Nicolas. Pero technically, Miss A, you mentioned also that it's also acceptable for this place. It's either Cebu City or San Roque.
So actually, Dr. Mike Cullinane mentioned San Nicolas and San Roque, but there were also, if you look at the bio sketches, there were many leaders of the Tres de Abril uprising from Cebu City, but the most number of manggugubot are from San Nicolas. So the third question is both for online and on-site, but everyone will answer through the comment section.
Ganahan ko ani na prize, ma'am.
So the prize is a
Okay, the prize is an Alima native massage. That's why I mentioned that I really like it.
so Hilot Binisaya at
Ay,
Alima Native Massage with soak and chill. You can have a 5-hour soak at 5-hour stay at the Rooms for Heroes and soaking at the saltwater dipping pool. So of 𝙃𝙪𝙬𝙧𝙧. So the soak should be before the massage.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
Hilot Binisaya from Alima Native Massage, and the one who would answer would win this, and you will answer. Everyone will answer through the comment section
Comment section.
of the Facebook Live.
Okay, so again, the question is, name one occupation of some of the leaders of the Tres de Abril uprising. So, unsay lang mga trabaho. Okay.
One occupation.
Sige, one occupation lang. Okay, online guests?
Yes, only those who have not yet won a prize would qualify.
Yeah. Again, online and on-site. So what were their jobs or occupation? So do we have a winner already online? Ano ba? Do we have?
Most occupation.
Most occupation.
Actually, so essentially, so there is, you have already won Ferdinand and Pyro. Did he win? No, not yet.
He answered earlier, but wala. Okay.
Pwede ra kasi Isidro Gibilondo was a lawyer.
Hindi ako po, ma'am.
So pwede na ning answer ni Pyro, which is
Lawyer. Okay.
So
acceptable? Congratulations, Pyro. You get a Alima native massage.
Hilot Binisaya.
Hilot Binisaya.
But of course, the most accurate answer would be empleados and escribientes.
Escribientes, what is that, ma'am?
Clerk.
Clerks.
Yes.
Okay.
So, congratulations.
Okay, congratulations, Pyro, on your massage. Sige. At this point, okay, so let's give our winners for our contest a big round of applause. Okay. That's okay. The celebration will still go on in the coming days, so there will still be more contests or promos. Feel free to follow Palmgrass in their Facebook page. Now, at this point, we will have the announcement of winners for our Cebu Katipunan Leaders Cosplay Contest. So I have here the name, and what will they receive, ma'am, as their prize?
What's their prize?
What were their prize?
What is Chris? What was the prize?
What is the prize of our
overnight stay?
They'll have an overnight stay here at Palmgrass.
And then the consolation prize. So everyone, does everyone win a consolation prize, or we have the top two? So you announce first the top two.
Okay, so let's announce. We have
top two only.
Okay. So I think I will announce first the second place. Natay drum roll. Wait, we have a drum. Okay, drum roll. Congratulations. Second place, the one who cosplayed, Padre Toribio Padilla. Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations. Okay. Next up, the grand winner, and of course the winner, as mentioned earlier, will get an overnight stay here at Palmgrass. Wow. Can it be availed when ma'am? Anytime?
Anytime.
Anytime. Okay. So congratulations to drum roll. We are also celebrating his day today. So congratulations, Leon Kilat! See? Okay, so congratulations once again to our winners. You'll receive your prizes later. You know what? Can we have one more pose one more pose so that we can have a photo of our cosplayers right here? Okay, for documentation purposes. Okay, and before we proceed, okay, we still have more winners because we have a lot of contests that was held a few days earlier. Okay, so we have okay, so Natay Sash, amazing. We have the judges. Let's pose with our cosplayers right here. And while they're taking their pictures, let's also recognize the winners for the following contest. So earlier, we had the awarding of the Cebu-wide virtual impromptu speech. Okay, we'll have an awarding for the Cebu-wide virtual impromptu speech. Before that, I would just like to mention who are the judges. The judges are for this contest: multimedia journalist Nimrod Quiñones, broadcast journalist attorney Cara May Noveda, and curator of Museo Sugbo, Maria Cecilia Cabañez. So these are the winners. Let's
Not
start.
yet. We will first.
Okay, of course, yeah.
We will first mention the names of those contestants of our impromptu speech contest.
Okay, so sorry. Okay, sige. My apologies for that one. The names are already here. So let's recognize first the names of the contestants, and there are many of them. Okay, let's start with from Talisay, representing Talisay City High School, grade 12 student Michael Cinco del Enrique. Congrats. A round of applause. Next up, from Toledo City Science High School, we have Gerard Adrian Uy. From University of San Jose Recoletos, grade 12 student Michael Sornilio. From Maria Montessori International School, we have Jared Zion Muanya. From Tudela National High School from Cebu Province, we have Lovejoy Carupo. From Cebu City National Science High School, we have Mary Abigail Paniares. Grade 12 student from University of Cebu, Lapu-Lapu and Mandaue, from Mandaue City, we have Romary Tablizo. A grade 10 student next up is from Ocania National High School in Carcar. We have Naisi Remoclado. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. Remocaldo. Okay, thank you, Miss A. Next up, from Carcar City, going to Juana Enriquez Macalang National High School, a grade 10 student by the name of Muhammad El Miki. From Maxilom Noel Memorial National High School, still from Carcar, a grade 11 student, we have Vin Baragan. And the last contestant here for the impromptu speech contest, we have from St. Catherine's College, Carcar City, Rosemary Wegener. Congratulations soon to our winners for this one. Okay, so and now let us go to the awarding. So we have the following. We have the netizens' choice.
We will show the video first.
Okay, let's show the video
of the one who won the Netizens' Choice Award.
Okay.
The commemoration of Tres de Abril Basso is a reminder how our forefathers fight for our freedom. As youth of Cebu, we should value the freedom and independence the country had obtained through the gallant struggle and bravery of our Filipino heroes like Pantaleon Villegas, popularly known then as Leon Quilat, who led the Cebu uprising against the Spaniards. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. The Netizens Choice Awardee, 𝗵𝘃𝙧𝙬 from Tudela National High School.
Yes, and this is the plaque of
recognition.
And then this is for this Netizens Choice Award is given to 𝗵𝘃𝙧𝙬 for being the Netizens Choice in the Cebu Island-wide virtual impromptu speech contest with the theme 500 Years of Cebuano Heroism and the 124th anniversary of the Battle of Tres de Abril, given this third day of April 2022 at Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, Cebu City by Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, and the Department of Education.
Congratulations. Next up, okay, this time we will be going to the top 5. Okay, so there are 5 videos. Okay, so let's show first the 5th placer.
Yes, of course, I will fight for the Cebuanos, but since I am a time traveler, I will not be stupid enough to get myself killed. In my research as a for the information, I have found out that the killer or the stabber of Leon Quilat is Filencio and Apolinario. So before I get killed, I'll kill them first. I'll stab them first before, and then I'll escape myself. Because I am not stupid first and foremost, and I've already repeated that. And freedom is the very reason why the patriots fought this war, and they risked everything. And I will not let such atrocity happen to me just because they became scared because of the current happenings. Because the truth is, if at that time we kept on winning against the Spaniards would eventually be defeated and they will retreat. That's all. Thank you.
So that's Nicey Rimucaldo of Karkar, Ocania National High School, and she answered the question: if you are going to travel back in time and you become Leon Quilat, and you already know that if you will fight against the Spaniards, you will be betrayed and killed, would you still do it? And he said yes, and she said yes, but then because she's a time traveler, she already knew who would be her murderer, so she would fight them first or kill them first. So now our...
Okay, so congratulations to Nicey. A round of applause. Top 5 from Ocania National High School. She is a grade 10 student. Okay, so next we go to the 4th placer. Let's play the video first. And the question is, name a leader of the 1898 Tres de Abril uprising and describe his or her admirable qualities. Let's see the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, good afternoon. For sure, many of you will be surprised of the weapon I have thought about, because this is not as sharp or as dangerous as you have imagined. Because I am very into the 3D anting. Yes. Leon is very anting. And I consider it as a weapon that can be battle tracks. Because many sources have presented that one of the factors that made this battle successful is because of what Leon was wearing. I am highlighting the anting-anting as a weapon because I want this item to be introduced that even before these kinds of items had been used by the heroes themselves. And anting-anting serves as as a remembrance of what we can do in the name of our country. The usage of these items will guide and save us as they battle the forces of foreign invaders who have continuously mistreated the Filipinos. Let us not poke fun at these relics because they have played a significant role in the revolution. Let us treasure and preserve them because they bear the good deeds that the Filipino revolutionaries have rendered our nation. That be all. Thank you.
That was our fourth placer, Romari Tablizo, a grade 12 student from University of Cebu, Lapu-Lapu, and Mandaue. Let's give him a big round of applause.
So the question for him was name an amulet used by the Katipuneros in the Battle of Tres de Abril and what is its use in the revolution. So that's his question.
Thank you. And now we proceed to our third prize, or ikatulong gante. Let's have the video.
There is a saying that goes that I may lose this battle, but I will surely win this war. 𝗺𝙗𝙗𝙗 was really important in that significant part of our history, the Tres de Abril uprising. I admire his qualities because even though he was brave, he valiantly fought against the Spaniards to get Fort San Pedro, but he was not carelessly brave. He was also cunning. When he saw the Spanish Armada come, he retreated to 𝗪𝗪. And although he had one downfall, and that is he trusted his fellow Cebuanos too much that in 𝗪𝗪 he was betrayed and killed, that does not take away his admirable qualities. In fact, it inspires us more that even though heroes are flawed and heroes make mistakes, their legacy lives on. An admirable quality about 𝗺𝙗𝙗𝙗's message is that when he died, the revolution did not die with him. It was brighter and it was stronger than ever because people revolted. And that is the quality that I really admire about 𝗺𝙗𝙗𝙗, is that he was able to have an impact in our history that even though he died, his legacy lived on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The winner is Romari Tablizo.
No,
sorry, my mistake. Del Enrique Michael Cinco, a grade 12 student from Talisay City Science High School. A round of applause. And the question was, ma'am?
And the question for him was name a hero of the Tres de Abril, of the 1898 Cebu Revolution and describe his or her admirable qualities. And so he chose 𝗺𝙗𝙗𝙗.
Okay, thank you very much and congratulations to Del Enrique Michael Cinco from Talisay City Science High School. Now we go to our second prize, or ikaduhang gante. Okay, so let's play the video. Okay, let's read the question first. What are the qualities of Lapu-Lapu? Okay,
important courage any nation should undertake as the people puts its trust to one leader to carry the entire nation and hold the Philippine dream and its continuous development. I would use this opportunity to urge the voters to refer to history and refer to how Lapu-Lapu and 𝗺𝙗𝙗𝙗 had this extreme sense of nationalism, and how they were so ready to give up not just their own lives, but also their entire history and throw their humanity away just to preserve the Philippine culture, history, and society. I would also urge voters to to basically find the strategic thinking and proper risk taking that a leader must be able to make if they want the nation to succeed. Though I am not a registered voter, if I were to vote, I would certainly find these qualities. And even though I myself have not only been living in the Philippines for 3 years, these qualities surely relate to me, and I believe that they are the most important things that voters should decide on in order to find the best leader who is the best suit for leading our nation. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the winner for our second place is Muhammad 𝗪𝙗𝙀, and the question was, ma'am, I
Muhammad 𝗪𝙗𝙀, grade 10 of Juana Enriquez Macalang National High School, and this is still from the Carcar City Division. And the question for him was, what are the traits of our heroes Lapu-Lapu and Leon Quilat that voters should look for in the candidates that they will vote in the 2022 national and local elections? And that was his answer.
Okay.
So they actually were given the question for 1 minute before they talked. So they prepared for 1 minute and they also talked for 1 minute. So our grand prize.
And a grand prize, ang unang ganti. Let's have the video. Okay, the question was, describe one weapon used by the native
If I were to
warriors.
describe one weapon used by the native warriors in the Battle of Mactan and how this helped in their triumph, it would be very unfortunate because I cannot give you only one answer. There were two weapons used during the Battle of Mactan. One that is visible, spears and a kampilan, and then two, the invisible that was very useful during the battle. The kampilan as a tribute to Lapu-Lapu, and as a tribute for women who fought in the battle, the poisons concocted by our very own babaylans. Before babaylans were said to have concocted the poisons and applied these to their spears. So when the mighty Lapu-Lapu wielded wielded this great sword and beheaded those subjugators, which was just fatal to all of them. The battle clearly wasn't just more about these weapons. It was their unity as men and women played into these battles. This is what our heroes, from the very beginning, teaches us that we should be one. Men and women, no one must be low or high. But we must all net together.
Okay. And the winner, ang unang ganti, first prize goes to Mary Abigail Pañares from Cebu City National High School, a grade 12 student. Let's give her a round of applause.
So she's from the Cebu City National Science High School, and this unang ganti is awarded to Mary Abigail Pañares, given this 3rd day of April 2022 at Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, by Palmgrass, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, and 𝐷epEd. So the question for her was, name a weapon used by the native warriors in the Battle of Mactan. And then she mentioned her answer were 2 or 3. She said the kampilan and also the poisons concocted by the babaylan. And also the third is unity. So that's her question. So she's actually the winner of she was actually also the winner of our extemporaneous speech contest last November in celebration of the birthday of General Arcadio Maxilom, and she is also now the winner of the impromptu speech contest. Mahall of Famer na ni siya. So congratulations, Abigail, and also to the coaches and the teachers of these very talented, very intelligent, and and very informed also about our history. Congratulations for learning about our history and for speaking about your love of our heroes and our Cebu history.
Congratulations to all our winners, and your names will be posted through our official page in Palmgrass. Okay, once again, let's give a round of applause to our winners. They have their plaques ready.
And gift certificates.
Yeah, and gift certificates. So if you are watching, they can claim it here at Palmgrass. Okay, so, and yeah. So congratulations once again. Now, at this point, before we end our program, we have some upcoming events. So on April 30, we have the 𝙗𝙗𝙧𝙬 Lapu-Lapu Legends, Myths, and Truths. Oh, that's an interesting event. That will be part of the celebration of the 501st anniversary of the Battle of Mactan. It will be with Dr. Danny Herona, Amid Quizon, and other scholars. That will be on April 30. And On May 28, we have the Dayag, 500 years of stories and performances in the Visayas. Another interesting event soon. That will be on May 28. So guys, sa ato mga historical buffs diha, who wants to learn more about our heritage, mark those dates. Okay, so now we are down to the last part of our program. Before we go, I would like to once again recognize and thank our partners. Once again, we'd like to thank the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, the National Quincentennial Committee, the Department of Education, Region 7, Cebu Normal University, the University of San Carlos Department of Anthropology, Sociology, and History, the USC Department of Political Science, and the Carolinian Political Science Society. We would also like to thank the Culture, Arts, and Design Association of the Philippines Foundation Incorporated. And thank you also to Art Cebu, Bagong Teatro, 𝙃𝙃. Thank you also Museo Sugbo, 𝙃𝙪𝙧𝙧, and so on 2020. Let's give them all a big round of applause. And of course, we also like to thank, we mentioned already, Cebu Normal University. Thank you very much. And we also have some schools here, SWU, USJR, UC earlier. So thank you very much, guys. And everyone here, including the staff and the staff here at Palm Grass, Miss A, for really nurturing, preserving, and continue to share our heritage. These are important parts of our history that we cannot really just ignore. We will continue to talk about it, make seminars about it, research, dissect, and really go into it because learning about this, because Cebu history is very rich. If one is a kanipalang daan atong Leon 𝙃𝙃 can fill up an entire section of a library. So, and we have more, 500 years pa jud, kapin. So, thank you very much to everyone. Thank you to our judges. Thank you, Doc Mike earlier. Thank you very much to everyone watching us online. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Congratulations also to our winners. My name is Josh, and thank you for being with us. We turn you over to the Alerta Katipunan for our closing song. Once again, let's give everyone a big round of applause. Daghang salamat kaninyong tanan. Thank you.
Alerta Katipunan sa bukid ang puloy tanan, dito matagamtaman, kakapoy sa kalawasan, walay ulan, walay habon, walay banig, pagkatulog, giunlan pa ang sundan, abanseng makalilisan. Alerta Katipunan, ang tuson, ang kalisdanan, dugangan nato ang kaisog, bisag mamatay pa sa panggubatan. Tumong natong idusok, nasa tukson, pugupayon, dali na kita magkikisok, abanseng makalilisan. Alerta Katipunan sa bukid bukid ang Cullinane, dito matagang tabang, nakapoy sa kalawasan. Walay ulan, walay habon, walay banin. Nagkatulog, giunlan pa ang sulang, abanse makalinisan. Aleta Katipunan, albuson ang kalistanan. Dugagan ako ang kaiso, bisag mamatay pa sa panggubatan. Tumunglato, inusok, nasutupson, bukupayon, dali na kita makipiso, abanseng makalilisan. Aleta Katipunan, abanseng makalilisan. Aleta Katipunan, abanseng makalilisan.
Mabuhay ang Tres de Abril, your legacy. Mabuhay! Okay, your legacy lives on. Once again, we are celebrating the 124th year of Tres de Abril uprising and the 5th grand opening anniversary of 𝘠𝘂𝗏, the Cebu Heritage Hotel. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you everyone joining us online and on site. We hope to see you in the next event. Thank you. 𝙃𝙃𝙀𝙃𝙀𝙃. The legacy lives on.